Welcome, one and all, folks. How are we doing this evening, folks? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me make sure you're getting the same beautiful noises that I'm giving you. There we go, folks. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So, folks, welcome one and all to the K.O.E Nation. We are doing a very special broadcast this evening. Come one, come all. We are going to do how I would have voted in every U.S. election from 1788 to 1836. So we're going to call this Elections, the Phantom Menace. Ooh. So yes, this will be episode 1 of the election coverage of the presidential elections. So yes, God bless every last one of you. One moment. Let me send some messages to some folks. Let them know it's finally here. It's finally here. So how are all you beautiful people doing? But now, if you're curious about this exercise, what we're doing on this show this evening, the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast is here. Definitely be sure to go check them out also, folks. The Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast you can find on YouTube and Spotify. It has pretty much the most brilliant, handsome, erudite, big-brained, generally just like big dick, also a cast of characters that's ever existed. Like they have the biggest brains, biggest penises. There's no cast that can really surpass that. It's the people that make up the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast. So you really need to check them out, and definitely do that. Tony G, Chicken, and yours truly, Phil, K.O.E. Now, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong here. Am I a 7 or 8-time Revolution? I think I'm an 8-time Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast champion, but we will have to get into that another time, folks. But also, I know we're talking about how I would have voted in past presidential elections, but looking to the future, there's so many great people that are talking about Phil K.O.E 2024. That's looking to the future. Yes, that's the right thing. And Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast, MF for spitting. I mean, hey, when I'm right, I'm right. I got to speak the truth when the truth comes to me. What can I say? What can I say? And yes, the 8-time Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast champion. Oh, this close to my 9th. This close. But folks, we are here to do something very special. My time over the Big Buckin' Empire is always very fun for me. I get to interact with Dog and Chicken and all of their marvelous fans over there. And we're in the middle of a bit of a project, if you will, and we're doing how we would have voted in every U.S. election. And if you want to do this kind of exercise in your own channel, the way we did it is you can say you're voting in your home state when your home state becomes a state. Or if you've ever lived in that state, or if you can say that you've got some descendant that's lived in said state, you can choose that one. To me, because most of my family, as far as my genealogy can tell, didn't really show up in the United States until shortly before or shortly after the Civil War. I just kind of went with, okay, I'm a Connecticut farmer in the beginning. And so if that's something you'd like to do, those are kind of the rules and metrics that we've chosen for this. Now, I found out my great grandfather Jacob, he was actually a farmer in the state of Illinois. So once this video concludes, that'll be the last time that I have to be a farmer from Connecticut for this exercise. From now on, I can really basically represent how my family would have likely voted from that point forward. So yes, we are going to break down how I would have voted in every U.S. presidential elections. But folks, before we get to that, how silly of me. I am the devilishly handsome outlaw himself, your king of extreme, Phil K.O.E. You can find me at K.O.E Nation on YouTube and Twitch. That is K.O.E. K as in killer looks there, champ. O as in, oh my God, you're so handsome. E as in none has ever been more extreme. K.O.E Nation on YouTube and Twitch. And folks, but like I said earlier, definitely check out Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. And then Big Buckin' Empire on Facebook and YouTube. That's where you can find some really good content. But folks, without further ado, let's get right into it because we've got a lot of elections to cover. And folks, let us know in the comments how you would have voted in these elections, each one of them, whether you're watching live or you're watching after the fact. Let us know in the comments, how would you have gone? How would you have decided? So, folks, without further ado, let's get right to it. Dog, Chicken, and Phil, K.O.E. will take it away.
Our special guest, just had him come into the room. Everybody, please welcome Tom Summery.
On this episode of Omegle.
I'm here, and your white privileges are going to save you tonight, okay, guys?
Smooths itself out.
Tell you what I'll do if I ever get back. I promise to refabricate you, raging rivers of gold. That's what the brochure advertised.
That's right. It's time for the Dog and Chicken Show. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 93. Welcome to the Dog and Chicken Show. I am Chicken, of course, and off to my side, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, Tony fucking G. How you doing tonight, brother?
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
I think that's 2 weeks in a row that you were just stupendous. But as always,
I'm consistent.
You are. If nothing, you are consistent. And if nothing else, being consistent, we also have Phil holding us up.
Yes, thank you for having me this evening here at the Dog and Chicken Show. I am the devilishly handsome outlaw himself, your king of extreme, Phil K.O.E. You can find me at K.O.E Nation on YouTube and Twitch. And of course, here at Big Buckin' Empire, where we are going to get into all kinds of interesting topics this evening. We're going to be covering the presidential elections throughout history, and we are going to show you how. But Tony, I'm going to tell you, don't worry, sir. Everything is wonderful now. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's all going to be better. It's all going to be better. We're going to get there, and we're going to get there together. So, Chicken, without further ado, good sir, what is the topic du jour this evening?
So this is actually something I wanted to do back in lockdown days. I wanted to go through every single president and kind of like break down what were politics like back then. You know, would you actually have voted for them? Are they as great as we make them out to be? And then I had to go back to work, and my lockdown kind of ended. So the other day, actually, we were discussing, hey, what should we talk about? And Phil brought the idea up, and with a little bit of a twist to it. And I was like, fuck yeah, we just need to start doing these because this will be a lot of fun. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. But we're going to do it with the Thirsty Thursday twist. And of course, we have drinking words tonight. See them scrolling across the bottom of your screen. But let's see, what are they? We got Federalist, War, British, French, or we can say Britain and France, I guess. And then, of course, as always, if Tony's kids interrupt the show, and Tony, I think Phil's right. Everything is fine now. We hit the record button. Yes, folks, this isn't live. Sorry. This is pre-recorded, but it still is Thirsty Thursday in all of our hearts.
Business.
I know. Well, they're going to wonder why their comments don't pop up, and they're going to think we all hate them, which we do. But
That's fair.
That's
I mean,
fair.
you know, if we're going to be totally,
But it's all better, Tony. We hit the record button. It's drinking.
But so
time.
for this
Well, I was
presidential,
going to say, Tony, what are you drinking?
yeah, I was going to say for this presidential drinking evening, what are we drinking, gents?
I'm starting off with a dram of Weller's Special Reserve.
Ooh,
Nice.
Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey.
Beautiful.
So, Tony will be representing the South.
Prepping for a weekend, wink, wink, foreshadowing of some future content to come. I'm prepping myself back up on some rye. I got my Bullet Rye, which was guess what? One of my favorites, and you have to go back and watch that video to see who won when it came to the rye challenge. But I'll jump over. My wife got me Jefferson's, and it's a gimmick age.
Hang on 1 minute, folks. I just got to make a couple of shout outs here before we get too deep into it. Yanked Up Podcast is here, folks. Yanked Up Podcast of YouTube. He's a great salt of the earth podcaster. If you want to know all about grilling, this guy loves grilling. It's something he's quite passionate about. And just like I said, good salt of the earth person. I cannot recommend going to check out the Yanked Up Podcast enough. And also another salt of the earth fellow that's going to be stopping by on this screen a little later is going to be Brendan of Dad's Worldwide on YouTube. Definitely check him out as well. But yeah, all the great people that are just part of the alliance of the K.O.E. Nation. Yes, the K.O.E. Nation Alliance is allied with many other nations and podcasts, and these are just some of the many great allegiances and alliances that I have forged over the years. But yes, Yanked Up Podcast, another great alliance of podcastery within the K.O.E. Nation. So yeah, definitely check out that guy. Good shit. Good shit.
Age statement where they like take it out on a boat and age it in the Caribbean. But it was actually really good. So I'm going to switch over just for presidents in election time. I'll have some Jeffersons, even though I don't really think it has shit to do with Thomas Jefferson. I think they just kind of ripped off the name, but it's still pretty good bourbon. And yeah, I like it. So piss off.
Well, thank you. We will, I'm sure everybody in the audience like, well, yes, chicken, I'll get right to pissing off. But
yes,
what I'm drinking this evening, because we are going to be talking about an actual denizen of this particular area, I'm drinking actually Trump wine from Monticello, which was the home of Thomas Jefferson. So I figured what would be better. Now, chicken, funny enough, when you talk about that, Thomas Jefferson was very anti-whiskey. He even said that the bane of whiskey drunkenness is not found anywhere where wine is cheap, and wine is the antidote of the public bane that is whiskey. So he was really heavy into, he wanted to cultivate a wine drinking culture here in America, like there was in, well, we're gonna have to drink like in France.
Didn't he get rid of the whiskey tax though?
I think he did. Yeah, like don't get me wrong, he didn't want to stifle industry, because in those days there was no storage bin that had like air you could move across it. If you wanted to store your grain, you had to distill it and turn it into a whiskey. So I could see that. So
fair enough. So folks, we're about to go back in time, and we're going to pretend like we lived in this time. So wavy lines across the screen. I don't know if I'll do any actual effects on here. Yeah, this is good enough. We're going to go back to the year 1788. So the first actual presidential election occurred on Monday, December 15th, 1788. And it lasted until Saturday, January 10th, 1789. Why so long, you might ask? Well, because it's fucking 1788, and you had 13 states to like go on horseback to go let everybody know that, hey, we're gonna vote for somebody. You guys, who do you want? So this was not an easy task to collect all that information from all the states and to actually declare a president. So we needed time. Took almost a month. And odd date. This is the only election that actually went into 2 separate years. Granted, it's the end of 88 and the beginning of 89. But if I could be incorrect. I don't think I am. This is the only time an election actually went across New Year's Day. So,
yeah, I believe you're correct.
Well, again, this is the first one, so it was going to take a minute to work all the bugs out.
Yes.
So we've got obviously George Washington, but then also whoever won second place became vice president. So
yeah, that was a super weird thing at the time.
Yeah, going back and looking at this and seeing just how the actual election process worked, it's a little jarring to consider.
Could you imagine?
We still did that today? Can you imagine how that would would just pan out. It would just be.
Could you imagine
chaos.
Biden being president and Trump being VP?
Oh,
Oh God, it would be so bad.
Yeah, I mean, like think about
It'd be like a
George
bad
W. Bush
sitcom.
being president and Al Gore being vice president. So that's like.
Oh,
Now,
God.
don't get me wrong. I
God.
understand the logic. I mean, the guy who got the second most votes probably should at least step in for the. But at the same time, the system we have now, where there is a streamlined continuance and transfer of power, I think is much more preferable in our modern day. But I can understand this. Now, I think it. All right. Now, keep in mind. You, me, Chicken, all of us, regardless of where we're living at, there's a very good Vegas odds chance that every one of us served in the Revolution underneath General Washington. If we are also, one other thing I just wanted to add that I totally forgot about when I was putting this video together is me personally, as I am genetically constructed. If I were to be there at the time, I would have been turned away at the polls because they're ew, too Irish. Ew, yucky, yuck. Yanked it. Damn, y'all hate your fans. I don't hate my fans. They're good folk. And actually, folks, if you look at the little down here scrolly part underneath me, we're doing a subscriber drive for the rest of for the next hour is a subscriber drive right here for the following channels: K.O.E Nation on YouTube, of course, Big Buck and Empire on YouTube, Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast, Yanked Up Podcast, Dads Worldwide. We're doing a YouTube-centric subscriber drive for the next hour. You like, share, subscribe to them all, like it says down there. All you got to do is just type in the little letters right there in the search bar, and you'll find every last one of them. So once again, those channels that we're doing a subscriber drive for this hour, folks, is K.O.E Nation on YouTube, Big Buck and Empire on YouTube, Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast on YouTube, the Yanked Up Podcast, and Dads Worldwide. Like, share, subscribe to them all. You know it's the right thing to do. We're alive in this era to vote in this election. So the idea that, like, obviously George Washington is going to get first place, and then it's a matter of who would be your second place pick. And to me personally, like now I'm assuming, like, I'm a farmer now. So like, all right, assume I'm like some farmer in Connecticut or whatever. Like it would be a pretty tough competition between John Adams and John Hancock. George Clinton, he keeps showing up in American history. Like
he does.
He is. And Tony, he's a guy you would love, because there was one point when he was on the VP ticket. He said, "No, I don't want to do this. I'm not leaving my house. Stop it. Why are you making it?" So he was literally a guy who was on the ticket who really didn't want to be. So that was like, I kind of love the guy. Just George Clinton, like, just didn't.
Yeah, he's an interesting character for sure.
So out of all of the candidates here, those of you watching and not just listening, he is the only non-federalist candidate, and you'll see that because it says anti-federalist candidates. Governor of New York, George Clinton.
We have to drink.
So this is what we had to
drink like
work
2
with.
times on that.
Yeah, this is what we had to work with in the first election, folks. We had a bunch of people running under one, let's call it a constituency, and then one that just, well, we don't like that. So
it wasn't parties. So the difference between the two were ones that agreed with ratifying the Constitution and those who opposed ratifying the Constitution. The ones that opposed ratifying it thought it gave the federal government way too much power, and those that approved of it, and not all that approved of it, were happy about how much powers the federal government had, but they thought it necessary to kick off the country, and more or less were okay with what was in there. But I think there were actually 2 other candidates for the anti side. They don't have their pictures on there because I don't think there's any known pictures of them. But neither of them were very popular. But George Clinton was definitely the most popular, and he'll be around for a while in this story. He pops up from time to time.
Like, I almost wonder, do you suppose Bill Clinton is descended from George Clinton.
Yes.
So like he was just raised with like, I will avenge the fact that we never made it to the White House. Like you don't suppose.
Right.
I don't care if that's true. I want it to be.
Yes,
I know, right?
Yes. Like that, Tony's, yeah, absolutely right, Tony. It's like, yeah, please let that be true.
So the list of candidates, of course, George Washington did not actually deal in politics. He was more on the Federalist side, but his home state being Virginia, and there was weird rules. You could only vote for one person if it came out of your state. So if there was two people from your state running, you couldn't like vote for one as president and the other for VP because they're both from your state. They wouldn't allow that to happen, that was kind of an interesting little rule back then.
Well, you got to remember the limit of states at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to keep the power spread around. They didn't want it to,
For
didn't
sure.
want to favor the North or the South too much.
Yep. Then we had John Adams, very well known from Massachusetts. He was pro. I'm going to try to avoid using the Fed word here, but he was pro-constitutional, being whatever. Most of these guys are. I'll just call them feds. I'm just going to call them feds.
I like watching you dance around, use the word.
Yeah, I was going to say the F word, but I'm like, well, no, everybody's going to think something else. Like, damn it. So anyway, you got John Adams from Massachusetts. You got John Jay from New York. Robert Harrison from Maryland. John Rutledge from South Carolina. You got John Hancock, very famous, and technically before the Constitution, technically ran or was our president technically in the old Federalist days or whatever. Damn, I said it again.
Well, no, under the Articles of Confederation, and then
Yes,
he was
that.
also by the Royal Crown was appointed.
Yep.
I don't know what the
Even
term
before
was, but
the Articles of Confederation,
he
yes,
was
there was like two
basically-
groups.
Yeah, so John Hancock is one of those folks who you don't like. They don't tell the full story, and that's why his signature being so big was such a big deal, because he had been actually appointed by the Crown at some point. So, but yeah, anywho.
Anyway, George Clinton, which we already talked about, he was from New York. Sam Huntington from Connecticut. John Milton from Georgia. James Armstrong, also from Georgia. Benjamin Lincoln from Massachusetts. So we got two from Massachusetts, two from Georgia, two from New York. So that's kind of hindering them a little bit. And then a third one in Georgia was an also anti-guy, Edward Telfair. He was the governor in Georgia, I believe, during this time. But yeah, that didn't go very far for him. So yeah, like looking back through these early days, I don't know if we want to go through each candidate's history and everything, but like some of the front runners were John Adams, John Hancock, and on the anti side, George Clinton. Of course, everybody knew George Washington was kind of a shoo-in, except for Alexander Hamilton. This was a little side note. Alexander Hamilton actually was afraid that they would get John Adams would end up with the same amount of electoral votes, and it would be a tie and go to the House of Representatives for a pick, and he didn't want that. So he was actually trying to sway electoral votes away from John Adams to secure George Washington's victory. Since Alexander Hamilton did not run, he was our very first election. May have had some little meddling going on there.
Not from Hamilton. No. You're not, just the scheming conniver in all the back rooms of Washington, D.C. No, not Hamilton. Now, again, when you're talking about all this, like I'm just thinking back to the musical Hamilton, and when there's literally a scene where you've got Madison, Jefferson, and Burr all standing around, and they're singing, "Must be nice, it must be nice to have Washington on your side." And they're just saying like, wow, Hamilton, must be so nice having Washington on your side for everything. So when I'm hearing you bring him up, like Hamilton was a very interesting founding father, and he was the first Secretary of Treasury as well. So And he still adorns the $10 bill. But yeah, so we've got this pretty, like everybody pretty much said it was a lockup for George Washington, and it really was. I think Hamilton's fears were a little overblown. But again, that does point to how good of an administrator John Adams is. The fact that just by the fact that like this little bureaucrat could actually take out General Washington in the first election, that does point to he was a very competent administrator.
Yep.
So,
yep. For sure.
Now, I think it's pretty easy to say, like, if we were alive in this era, it's pretty fair to say we probably served, like I said, in that revolution. So the idea that we're not going to vote for General Washington is pretty absurd. But then it's an idea of who's your second place. And I think it would be for me, it would be, like I said, you're stuck between John Adams and John Hancock. John Hancock did actually have a very, very real hand in the revolution, and without him, we don't have a revolution. But same could be said for John Adams. And so I don't know, like I got a feeling it'd be like, well, which one served in battle more? And so that would probably be what would have swayed probably my vote. So I would say probably by a hair, I'd probably give it to John Hancock as a runner-up.
Interesting. John K. Yeah, he'd be your VP. I had gone through here, and just my line of work in general. I don't like big government and government interference on anything. Like most businesses are more effective on their own, and appreciate the Constitution and all that. But I might have been on the anti-federalist side, drink. Of a lot of things back in the day. If I inserted myself into 1788 in a similar line of work, I'd probably Phil, I think you said probably in like a New York or yeah, I'd probably be in Philadelphia or something like that.
Somewhere close to a port.
Yeah,
because you're a logistics guy, so you'd probably be either in like cart shipping or boat shipping in some kind. So like I'm just trying to find like professions that are analogous to what we like. And so that was my thought, is you'd probably be in some sort of shipping in ports. And so yeah, pretty much anywhere where you're close to the ocean was where I would peg chicken.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. That's why I think I would probably end up, I read up a little bit. I probably would have leaned more towards George Clinton. He was not it's like he was I don't necessarily call him a war hero, but he was in the Revolutionary War. I mean, he served his time and did his duties and whatnot. But yeah, I probably would have been more on the states' rights side of things and let states do their thing without the federal government being involved. Out of all of these, it'd been him or probably John Adams, but I'm not thinking ahead of what John Adams did later. But like what of John Adams up until this point, I probably would have had him as next one up, but I probably would have went with George Clinton.
Besides George Washington, who had the most military experience?
As far as like hardcore battle, I don't know if any of these guys were generals, were they, or like officers? Like, a lot of them were politicians or just wealthy elites or former. Yeah, just let's see. Let me see here. Let's see. Robert Hanson Harrison. He was an American Army officer, attorney, and a judge. Continental Army veteran, American Revolution. Most noted, he served under George Washington. He was his military secretary.
That'd be tough.
Yeah.
Which one's that?
That's Robert Harrison.
Okay, there you go. That would have been my second choice after Washington.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's got a very good point there, because like I said, I mean, Tony would have been a a soldier in the Revolution who served under
I
Washington.
mean,
and
you
like,
got to
so-
think about it. It's the first presidential election of a newly founded country that you're a part of, and you're still thinking Revolutionary War, of course. Drink.
Mhm.
You're going to keep that in the back of your mind.
Well,
It's
you might have
almost
thought of somebody.
that way.
John Milton was his family was from North Carolina, but he ran from Georgia. But yeah, he was a Revolutionary War officer and well decorated in a well respected, prominent figure in those times as well. Sounds like he was kind of like that day's like Pat Tillman. Like everybody was like, "Fuck yeah, rah rah." Well, of course he didn't die, but people
So
idolized him.
basically, at that point, it breaks down to which one was closest to whatever particular like unit or battalion Tony was serving with. It's like,
Yeah.
it would break like, well, he was in my, however they were breaking rank down back then. We were closer in rank, so I like
Yeah.
him. So
And Benjamin Lincoln, actually, he was another Army officer and candidate in this one. He was involved in 3 major surrenders during the participation in battles of Saratoga. Hold on, I'm going to pull this all up here. His participation in the battles of Saratoga, sustaining a wound shortly afterward, contributed to the surrender of the British Army. He oversaw the largest American surrender of the War of 1780 siege on Charleston, and is George Washington's second in command. He formally accepted the British surrender at Yorktown as well. So this guy, Benjamin Lincoln, would have been pretty fucking popular too.
See, I think he pops up again here in another couple elections.
Possibly. I can't remember.
Oh, the suspense. So
He ended up becoming the first United States Secretary of War, though. So he was.
he was apparently no
Washington
sloucher.
was pretty
Impressed.
loyal to him.
So I think we've basically broke down. Chicken would be going anti-federalist all the way. Tony would be going with whoever had the most military distinguishment and who was ever basically closest to his unit. And me, I would be like, to me, like it's very close between John Adams and, like I said, John Hancock. And John Hancock, if he was one of the guys that kind of sparked the whole revolution, so that would be fresh in my mind. And so that would be, it would be close, but yeah, I'm gonna go with John Hancock on this one.
Gotcha.
VP.
And so results. I pulled up here. Oh shit!
Big shocker. So who won the presidency?
George
who was it?
Washington.
Whoa!
No.
Yeah.
So my $1 bill is right. Okay.
Yeah. Son of a
Yeah.
bitch. And then second place, which Alexander Hamilton may have been correct to think that there might have been a little bit of a challenge. So George Washington got 69 electoral votes, which is the most you can get at the time. So he is the only president ever to get unanimous electoral college votes. And then next in line, John Adams got 34. And then John Jay got 9, and everybody else was like 6 or less. And it kind of like fades out throughout there. My George Clinton only got 3.
How many did Hancock get?
John Hancock got 4.
Hey, I got one more than you. Oh. So the anti-federalists drink did not have a good go of it. Now, granted, they had Washington on the side of the Federalist drink.
Stop it.
This is fun. So we move onward and upward. So George Washington wins election handily. John Adams very quickly discovers that the vice presidency is not there to advise the president.
No.
He gets kicked out of cabinet meetings fairly quickly.
Yep.
And he suddenly finds out that being the VP is not all it's cracked up to be.
No. Not a lot of people like being VP after that. So we're moving on to 1792, the next presidential election. Was there any states added yet? Kentucky.
Bourbon.
And is Kentucky the only one that got added? I think
Maybe.
so. Yeah, I think Kentucky this time, and then I think we start adding states like each one of these elections. I think there's another state that gets ratified and added to these. But so Kentucky's the newest one to join the party here and help elect the president of these United States. This one happens November 2nd. Let's see, we're in 1792, November 2nd, and it lasts till December 5th. So another month, of course, we explained why. And for the most part, George Washington, again, is so damn popular. He's pretty much running unopposed. So again, we're picking a VP is really all we're doing in this one. Is the field as heavy as it was last time, Tony? I can't remember.
It sure doesn't look like it based off of the Wikipedia entry. We've got, for the Federalist drink nominations, we've got, of course, George Washington from Virginia, the current sitting president, and the current sitting vice president, John Adams from Massachusetts. From the no longer Anti Party, the Democratic Republican nominations, good old Governor George Clinton of New York, and, oh, look at that, President George Washington from Virginia.
Son of a biscuit. He gets to be on both tickets. Not bad.
Weird.
But no,
That's
this is the
strange.
beginning of something, and I'm going to quote the musical Hamilton again. Let's show these Federalists what we're up against. Southern motherfucking Democratic Republicans. Oh, yes. And so this is where the first political party shows up. The Southern Democratic Republicans have now made a coalition. They're also referred to as the Virginia Boys. So we have a Federalist and Anti-Federalist. This is fun. Ticket.
That's a lot of drinks right now. Jesus.
Yeah, I was saying, Phil just rattled off like 7.
Well, you're both drinking whiskey and I'm drinking wine, so that's what makes us fun.
Piss off.
So it really breaks down to which direction do you want to see the vice president? All you're doing is sending a message to Washington, D.C. That's really, well, not Washington, D.C., New York at this point. They hadn't moved the capital yet. So this is one of those, do you stick with John Adams or do you go with George Clinton?
Right. So the electoral rules of this time required each presidential elector to cast 2 votes without distinguishing which was president and which was vice president. The recipient of the most votes would become president and the runner-up vice president. So that was the Democratic Republican Party, which had organized an opposition to the policies of Alexander Hamilton. Here he comes again. Supported Clinton for the position of VP. Adams, meanwhile, was backed by the F Party in his bid for another term. Neither party had fully organized at this time. Of course, the Democratic Republican Party was brand new, and the partisan division wasn't quite solidified. So you had some of the feds and the anti-feds not quite knowing what the Democratic Republican Party really stood for yet, but they knew some of the people that were there, and they're like, hey, I kind of like that guy. Hey, that George Clinton guy's not that bad. I know he was an anti-fed, but he's in a new party now. Maybe he's not as bad as an evil as I thought he was. So you had some confusion. The partisan divide wasn't there at this time, and some people were starting to get swayed by some of this, and propaganda wasn't anything back then compared to what it is today, but it still happened at local levels. So it was really interesting. This is where you get to see kind of some of those, like if you were back then, it was telephone. Hey, there's this new political party, the Democratic Republican Party. And so, there was a lot of confusion at the beginning. And as we head into this election, like I said, the partisan divide wasn't there. And this was like, hey, we got a new party. All right. What is this all about? And people starting to get interested in the politics, especially the elites. Because let's remember, back then, only way you could vote the three of us, we only qualified to vote back then because we all own land, assuming, and we're white males. Unfortunately, that's the only people that could vote. So, yeah, transplanting ourselves back then, we're lucky to lucky to be alive and survive the war and not die of like measles or famine or whatever, and to own property and to have a job. So, and we get to vote now. So, and we're the only ones.
Yep. More to come later. Trust me. In the preceding videos to come here, folks, more and more people get the franchise, and you'll notice that's how a lot of these eras get divided. Is more people gain franchise to vote, and that actually is how mentally we kind of divide these different eras. So we're covering this era today, but I will, gentlemen, I think I'll go first in this one. To me, personally, between George Clinton and John Adams, I would have very enthusiastically voted for John Adams for a couple of reasons. A, out of a sense of loyalty to General Washington and the continuation of his administration as he has it. And also, John Adams does not own slaves. And so that is an attitude that I would want reflected in New York.
Gotcha. So in this one, most Democratic Republicans at this time, they didn't want George Clinton. They wanted Thomas Jefferson. And they couldn't get Thomas Jefferson. So this was, he's playing second fiddle. George Clinton's playing second fiddle here, unfortunately. And it was mainly the ideological following of Thomas Jefferson, and the people adored and loved him. And they thought if anybody was going to unseat George Washington, like who could do it? Well, John Adams couldn't do it, so the next one would be Thomas Jefferson. But I don't think that was the end game and the goal. There's some documentation on this, but I feel personally, from what I've read, I really feel it was between Jefferson, James Madison, some of these future names that we're going to run into. I think everybody was fine with George Washington. He didn't even want to run. They had to everybody had to beg him to run. And honestly, a lot of the play here was, hey, we started this new Democratic Republican Party. It's fragile. And, the rift is starting to come along, and we need George Washington to stay in power. So we can start cementing ourselves and move on past him eventually. But it was too fragile in the moment. And I think everybody recognized that. And I think these were just, both having John Adams in there was just a safe bet, and putting George Clinton in there, that was the other safe bet. No matter who won, there was not going to be any big ripples in the water, and the country's going to move forward. Nobody's going to get pissed off. Everybody's still going to be happy for the next 4 years until we have our first next big election, because Washington didn't want it in the first place. He didn't want it for re-election. He damn sure said he wasn't doing a third one.
And he set a very long precedent.
Yep.
I was really prepared to just tell you George Washington and George Clinton, but you really just sold me on. So basically what you're saying is if I voted for John Adams and George Clinton, it would essentially tear partisan politics apart from itself before it could actually begin. Yep, I'm doing
Probably
that.
would have destroyed the country in its infancy.
No, in all honesty, it would have been. I probably would have gone George Washington and George Clinton.
Yeah, same.
All right, so we're starting to see some divides here, folks. And shockingly, of all things, I never thought I would be finding myself as a federalist. Yes, it doesn't count if you say it in Spanish.
There you go.
Yeah, sure.
So I think, but again, it's also out of a sense of loyalty. So Chicken, what was the election results of this particular election year, sir?
So election results, once again, George Washington, 100% of the Electoral College, 132 votes. Coming in behind him, so was it going to be John Adams or George Clinton? John Adams got 77, George Clinton 50. And here's some fun ones. Thomas Jefferson, not even on the tickets, got 4 from Virginia.
Nice.
And Aaron Burr, which he'll come up soon, actually got 1 electoral vote. But this was the first sophisticated election we had.
Ego.
Yeah, right. This was the first sophisticated election we had. The first election, there's very little data. It's just real plain Jane. Like, this state said this and whatever. And half the states didn't even fucking like actually send a electoral vote. Like Virginia, and there was another state that like half the electoral people didn't even fucking cast their vote. One of them didn't even select somebody because they didn't fill out the paperwork right. Like, it was really sloppy the first time. This one, like when you get on Wikipedia and you look at the very first election versus this one, the amount of data you get by state and actual breakdowns, really, really fascinating. But I think, Phil, correct me if I'm wrong here, this was the lowest voter turnout in American history, I believe.
You know, I don't have the statistics for that in front of me, but I do believe you're right, because
it was
just
0.88% of the population.
Sweeping mandate. So now, granted, it was one of those like, well, everybody knows George Washington's going to win. Yeah. So, if you didn't go out to vote that day, it was going to be one of those like, the sun is still going to rise in the east and set in the west, and the rain will still fall from the clouds. It's one of those, like, I kind of get it at that point. Right. So is what it is. But like we said, more people get the franchise. You're going to get more people voting. But so shockingly, now I'll give George Clinton. Now he's got 53 electoral votes that he's won thus far. So I can see why he sticks around and he keeps showing up. I think we need a drink for that.
Might as well. I'm pretty sure kids are coming. More about this election. It was really interesting because the very first election, I think, was like 1.33% voter turnout, which was like 40,000 people. Now, back then, it was like 3 to 4 million people in the entire country. So this is 4 years later. Population hasn't changed that much. Only 28,500 people voted in this second election. So it's crazy low turnout numbers. Most states, like Maryland, let's see, what did it have? George Washington got 898 votes in Maryland. Like, yeah.
Not a lot of people were turning out for these elections. And like I said, not a lot of people could vote either. So that was well, now we move onward and upward to now. This is Washington's final term. He's saying, I'm saying goodbye, and I'm going back to my what would you call it, a ranch, a plantation, going back to his farm, and he's done.
Yep.
And so now it's the election of 1796, pitting John Adams versus Thomas Jefferson of the Southern Democratic Republicans.
So this was actually pretty interesting at this time. So there's Electoral College still is that's our Constitution. That's how we've done this since the start. There was 138 members of the Electoral College, so it meant you needed 79 votes to win. So that's where we're gonna run with here to see what happens. This was pretty damn close, like extremely close, if I remember right. Anyway, we'll go through because there were more candidates than just them, because since we've been focused on VP tickets this whole damn time. Tony's got them pulled up there on the screen. So we got, of course, John Adams, Thomas Pink. I always suck at saying his name. Pinckney. I don't know why I can't say it. It feels weird in my throat. Oliver Ellsworth, John Jay reappears. James Iredell, Sam Johnston. I was going to say Sam Jackson, and Charles Coatsworth, Pinckney as well. Are they related?
I would assume they're both from South Carolina.
God, could you imagine that? It's like, I'm running for president, Charles. Oh, really, Thomas? Well, guess what? So am I. God, Really, Thomas? Yes, Charles. Like just two brothers that are just
Yeah.
locked in an eternal sibling rivalry.
And then for the Democratic Republican candidates, Thomas Jefferson, of course, heading the ticket. And then next one's Aaron Burr, which he got the one on the last election. Samuel Adams from Massachusetts shows up. And then George Clinton again joining, throwing his hat in the ring. So let's see. We have new states to add here. Tennessee was admitted to, I believe, at this time. Is there any other states added? Ohio's not there yet. Looks like just Tennessee this time.
Yep. All righty. So this is an interesting one. Like now, to me, as somebody that's, like I said, a Connecticut farmer, served in the Revolution, starting to get to be a little bit of an old man now. The one thing from the Democratic Republicans that would be really appealing is they've got Samuel Adams amongst the ticket. Otherwise, these Virginia boys are starting to concern me a little bit. George Clinton from New York, that's good. But Aaron Burr, it just depends on your perspective and history, really, whether you love Burr or hate Burr.
He was a politician and a lawyer. Even though he's more of the anti-Fed guy, yeah, just by his career, yeah, I'm no fan of this guy. Sorry, politicians and lawyers, but you're all dishonest.
The stuff he did after
his fans of the Dog and Chicken Show.
Well, yeah. you should really sometimes, folks, do some research on some of the crazy stuff Burr did after his duel with Hamilton, because the idea that he just went away and didn't do anything in politics is not exactly true. He had some weird schemes. He tried to set up one of the territories as one of his little fiefdoms, and he never stopped scheming until the day he died. So strange character. But then when we get to the Federalists, doesn't count if I say it in Spanish. We've got John Adams, Thomas Pinckney, Oliver Ellsworthy, John Jay. We've gone through this list.
We've already gone through this.
To me, I'll be honest with you, in regards to wanting to keep George Washington's continuous administration flowing, I would probably, I would be enthusiastically voting for John Adams. And like I said, I would want, again, somebody that does not own slaves to hold the White House, because that would be thinking, well, surely we're going to see some change in that area, right?
Correct.
And that would be the thinking. That'd be the thought, anyways. We'll see. Unfortunately, we've got some other elections to cover that get into that. But that would be my thought, is John Adams, because that is the continuation of George Washington's administration, and for the other reasons I listed.
Fair enough. I probably would have stuck with the Jefferson side. Yes, he did own slaves and has a dirty past with some of that. Though the philosophy and the things that he, granted, I hate the whole Jefferson slavery thing, because there's so much documentation saying he wanted to free the slaves, but yeah, he owned slaves. It's just you can't defend it. He had it. No matter what his writings were, what was in his journals, what his original Declaration of Independence was, that was his most profound thing, was the original version of the Declaration of Independence. And the wording on there was just a big fuck you to King George, but it also was very clearly laying out, freeing slaves and a free society and everything that we want in today's world, beyond human rights. It just talks about anti-government, being government just being there for its only purpose and staying the fuck out of your business. So it was amazing in its original form, and then a whole bunch of people had to come in and mess with it. But I'm a big Thomas Jefferson fan, but I definitely would have leaned towards him. And as far as now, this is you're still picking your backup in your number two, because we didn't ratify the Constitution for voting until I think 1804. So this is still first place and second place people, right?
hmm
Yeah.
I think actually this particular election is the one that they
That's
cleaned
why
it up.
that's why this
Yeah.
rule gets changed. Yes.
Yeah, because
Hey there, big buck.
somebody
I
that's
would've-
on the screen right now damn near became president.
Yeah. So I would have done Thomas Jefferson for my presidential pick. And hopefully I would have been smart enough back then to not pick an alternate, an opposing party as my second pick, because that's just not smart politics. I would have had to have chosen somebody in that same party. I probably would have stuck with George Clinton. Maybe Sam Adams, but probably George Clinton.
Yeah,
Nobody
I'm
wants
trying
to
to-
fess up to voting Burr.
Yeah.
No. Burr was kind of a
lawyer.
piece of shit.
Yeah. No, I'm torn here because it depends on how I enjoyed the last two election results and the administration, how they handled it after. Like, if I was a huge fan of it, like you said, Phil, John Adams for consistency's sake, just because. But if I'm not a fan of how it came out, then maybe at this point I'd be inclined to go with the Democratic Republicans, because, as I said, Thomas Jefferson was supposed to be that guy, but we kind of had to use George Clinton instead. So I could see myself going Thomas Jefferson, George Clinton. I could see myself going Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, or vice versa. There's a few ways you could go with this, but I think those are really the only names on here that really stand out to me that would be, I think, legitimate options. I think some combination of John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and George Clinton. George Clinton's been in this thing every time, regardless of his vested interest or not. So just for the sake of consistency, I think we're probably looking at something combination-wise of John Adams and Thomas Jefferson.
This would be my first bipartisan ticket vote, where I would be going for John Adams for presidency and Samuel Adams for vice president.
Fair.
Just because-
Sam Adams was probably one of the better candidates on here that got overlooked at the time.
Yep, he was just as a candidate was just impressive. If you wanted to appeal to a wide section of American voters at the time, so yeah, it would have been an Adams ticket, an Adams electory. Da-na-na-na.
Awesome.
So,
All right.
what was the ultimate result, Chicken?
So remember, we needed 70. 70 was the magic number. Because today,
there was a kerfuffle here.
yeah. So we ended up, one candidate got 71 electoral votes. The other one got 68. So this was massively close, or massively. Like this was super, super close. John Adams pulls it off with 71. And Thomas Jefferson comes in second place with 68.
Oh.
Followed by Thomas Pinckney. I sound weird saying that. I know I do. Aaron Burr comes in fourth somehow. Anyway, Sam Adams comes in fifth. And then we, let's see, Oliver Ellsworth out of Connecticut ends up with 11. Everybody else had less than 10. George Clinton was 7. Since we mentioned him so much on here, he did not do well in this one either. But there was 3 candidates from New York, and one of them was Aaron Burr. So apparently, Aaron Burr, people liked him more than they did George Clinton, which I don't know. I guess I had to be alive back then. Don't get it.
Yeah, that's kind of the gist of this, isn't it?
Yep. Any guesses on how many people voted in this election? Because the very first one was about 40,000. The second one was 28,000. Any guesses?
Guessing
Yeah,
probably
50.
35 to 45.
Higher?
Oh,
50.
Higher?
70.
60.
In between the two of you.
65.
65.
66,841 people voted in this election. So this is the most votes we've ever had in American history to date.
Okay.
Fantastic, huh?
And the winner was,
John Adams.
yes, and so And so I forget, did Thomas Jefferson actually serve as vice president under John Adams, or I think yeah, I think he did actually.
Yes, he did. He did serve the full term under as VP.
And then he ran against his own, like, I can see why they eventually wanted to change the rules. It's like, boy, can't imagine why you're not on board with the Adams agenda here.
Yeah. So John Adams' presidency, for the most part, he was fine, but Phil, he kind of tripped, and he is, gonna foreshadow a little bit. He's gonna be the first of a certain term president. I won't just totally give it away, but I kind of gave it away. But what did he pull off in his from 1796 to 1800 that caused some issues here?
Where would you like to start, chicken? The economy was not doing well. You had yellow fever. That's what they called it at the time, was going through Philadelphia. He had the XY affair. Is that what it was referred to?
I have to look again and see exactly what that
Well,
was.
I guess what is it that you're referring to, chicken?
Oh, let me scroll down here. There's like one major thing that really fucked up his whole presidency. Is it the alien sedition?
Yes, that one. Big executive overreach, and it was.
Yeah, he had the XYZ affair. You're correct. He had that too.
But yeah, so read out the controversial part of the Alien Sedition Act here, chicken.
Oh, should we just read through the? Okay. Republican opposition persisted. Federalists accused the French and their associated immigrants, blah, blah, blah. Basically what this said was anytime you dissented, you could be held against federal law pretty much just by speaking negatively, or the Sedition Act made it a crime to publish false, scandalous, and malicious writing against the government or its officials. Adams had not promoted any of these acts, but was urged to sign them by his wife and his cabinet. He eventually agreed and signed these bills into law. This was really really bad look, especially when you have Thomas Jefferson as your VP, who is all about, anti-government overreach on anything. Like, government needs to stay out of everything. And then your president is like jailing and fining and yeah. Well, and some people, I don't know if there's actually stories of this. I've heard, alleged accounts of like publications would come out criticizing the U.S. government, and like local governments would just hang them. Like, they would hang the journalists just right there, but like, you're not allowed to do that. It's, the Alien Sedition Act, where, we're protected by the federal government on this. Like, there was some weird shit back then, and news travels slow back in 1800.
Yeah, but that was, like you said, one of his most egregious acts as president, and it was a big overreach, and it was kind of the thing that paved the way for the imperial executive that we now currently enjoy. Yes.
There's one thing the government to do when they get power
is try to get more. So we move on to the election of 1800. As many refer to it, the revolution of 1800. So we've got John Adams with Charles C. Pinckney. So apparently he beat out Thomas. And we've got, for the Democratic Republicans, Aaron Burr and Thomas Jefferson. So this one is quite an interesting one, because you'll notice that Burr seems to be on top of the ticket there.
So this is also both parties started figuring this out. Hey, if we overly saturate with too many candidates, it's going to be tough to win. So they started narrowing these tickets down a little bit more, and that's how Jefferson and the anti-federalists or the Democratic Republicans almost won the last time, because they only had 4 candidates. So they were only competing, between those 4, while the feds were competing with 8 or 9 people. So they finally started going, oh, hey, maybe if we don't like fill this fucking ticket with a whole bunch of down ballot names that nobody knows, we might have a little bit better chance to win this instead of spreading it out, because the Constitution has not been ratified to change that prior ruling yet. That does not happen. 12th Amendment, let's see, that's not till 1804. So number 1 becomes president, number 2 becomes vice president in this election still.
Boy, I forget, like, because we're coming up on the election pretty soon, if it's not this one, where we rectify that particular situation. Yes. But now for me personally, again, at this point, I'm going to be an old man, like big old long beard. But this will be the 4th time that I cast a ballot in support of John Adams. It's, despite all of his many flaws, it would be a holding my nose, and out of a sense of loyalty to General Washington, I would be not nearly as enthusiastically casting a ballot for John Adams.
Fair enough. With John Adams, like, horrible the Sedition Act, the XYZ that you mentioned, we didn't get into that story a whole lot, but that was his other kind of issue through his presidency that really kind of set him back a little bit and upset a lot of people. But apparently Aaron Burr's popularity at this time is just exploding. Like, he's got like almost like a cult following as we head into the 1800 election. Super strange. There's not a lot about the guy, but it is what it is. But let's see. So we talked about under these rules still hasn't changed. So you're limited to these 4 choices. I would have voted Jefferson for president and probably Pinckney for VP is my second choice. I would not have voted Aaron Burr or John Adams. I would have John Adams, if he didn't fuck up so bad the prior time, I probably would have had him as my number 2, but I would go with Pinckney as a safer choice. I'd still get the war hero, still get somebody who worked under Washington, so you still got that representation there. But I definitely would have wanted Thomas Jefferson to lead the charge here.
Yeah, I think because of my foray into podcasting, in 1800s, I probably would have been very upset about John Adams. So I probably would have gone straight Democratic Republican ticket for Jefferson and Burr. But it's hard to say. It's hard to go against a clear-cut, proven winner in John Adams. So I might have gone the same way I did in the previous one, but maybe flopped it. Jefferson for president, Adams for VP, maybe take a little bit of that power away. Make Jefferson the president, make Adams the VP. I probably would have gone that way.
Gotcha.
So, and again, I'm pretty loyal Adams voter at this point, but this one time I'm holding my nose, and that must be indicative because his most loyal supporters are just kind of and so that when that happens, well, chicken, why don't you read the results?
Before that, I just to get you a sense. So this is 1800. We said this was like the revolution. The bitterness between the parties, like these guys were split. The Federalists drink and the Democratic Republicans, like they hated each other at this point. There was slander, personal attacks on both sides. They got fucking posters up, like smearing each other. The feds were actually spreading rumors that all Democratic Republicans are racial atheists who would ruin the country. And and then they would actually support, and that was based because they supported the French Revolution. So it was like hot topics. You had a lot of culture issues because, you know, if you hadn't moved over from, you know, New England at that time, or not from New England, from Britain at that time, you probably came from like Scotland, Germany, France. Like you came from some of these other countries. I said that F word again there. Damn. And even George Washington had to, in 1798, as the buildup to this election was happening, he actually had to step in and actually say, like, you know, like, we shouldn't be changing our principles here. It'll lead to nothing but an unattempted to overturn the government of this country if you guys keep this shit up. Like he was really pissed about this. And then, you know, of course, like I mentioned, the Alien Sedition Acts. You know, that's hotly debated at the, you know, at the times, but you know, whatever's going on with the Frenchies is causing a lot of anti-democratic values. The aristocracy in this country were divided. All of your rich people from the revolutionary era were starting to get divided at this point, because, you know, people that were all kumbaya 4 years ago are now starting to pick sides and you know, shit on each other. And then of course Alexander Hamilton is not helping at this time. He's probably one of the ones leading the charge, causing some of this shit.
Oh, he was incredibly instrumental in this election in particular. So I'll let you get into that.
So there was what they called the Quasi War at the time. So Democratic Republicans felt that John Adams' foreign policy was way too nice to the crown, and feared that the new army called up for the Quasi War would oppress people and impose new taxes, pay for war, and attack the Alien Sedition Acts as violations of states' rights and the Constitution. So they called them high Federalists. Considered Adams too moderate and to have preferred the leadership of Hamilton instead. So he was trying to kind of sneak his way in. He saw the opportunity. It's like, oh, John Adams really fucked up in his 4 years. Let's cut the head off the snake and start doing some propaganda here and start getting my name out there. I can slide into this spot. So Hamilton was trying to work both ends of this, because he was still staunchly against the Democratic Republic Party, but he was kind of throwing some stuff around there at that time. And then let's see, what was the other one? He was part of the Whiskey Rebellion too, wasn't he? I remember reading this the other day. I'm trying to find it.
I can't remember, but yeah, the Whiskey Rebellion, that's still fresh in the minds of a lot of Northeastern
that was a common
farmers.
Man. Yeah, that was a lot of influence.
And Southern farmers as well. But yeah, it was whiskey distillers in the Northeast that the military actually was moved against. So yeah, I mean, you know, me being Southern, like, you never know. That might have been something that would have swayed me, but I think I probably would have begrudgingly stayed loyal to Adams and all of this. But so, Chicken, what were the results of this particular election?
All right, you ready?
Ready.
Slightly more voters this time around, 67,282. So a little bit more.
Okay.
The winner by a pretty fucking significant amount, Thomas Jefferson, with 61% of the vote. So I gave him the 73 that he needed for the Electoral College, and Aaron Burr being on that same ticket. This is really interesting how they did separate it. So they did play by the rules of the Constitution, but it wasn't actually ratified till 1804. So they did go by party. So Democratic Republicans win, Thomas Jefferson being the head of that party, and Aaron Burr being the vice president on that ticket. They get the 73 electoral votes. John Adams and Charles Coatworth Pinckney get 65 and 64, respectively, with John Jay being the second choice of VP with 1. So that's how it shook out. So your new president was Thomas Jefferson. New vice president is now Aaron Burr.
Whew. So, like somebody like me, I'm disappointed, but I'm not like dejected. You know, like, because okay, time to see how this Jefferson guy see if any of his fancy ideas can actually formulate into anything. And so, Chicken, Thomas Jefferson now has the reins, and he's given 4 years in power. And then he finds himself up against whom?
Well, now we're in 1804. Let's see here. What do we got? I'm checking to see if there's new states. Ohio is now added to the Union, officially ratified as a state. So we add a new state heading into this election. They officially been over a year. So they get 3 electoral votes. Let's see, does that change the number? So it's 176 members of the Electoral College now. So you need 89 to win in this election. All right, who do we got for candidates there, T?
All right. So starting off, the Democratic Republican Party ticket for President Thomas Jefferson, the incumbent, and George Clinton back again for VP, making another go of it. So the February
just won't give up.
No, well, he wanted to. They just wouldn't let him. February 1804, Democratic Republican Congressional Nominating Caucus selected the ticket. Unlike the previous election, the nominating caucus did not meet in secret. Jefferson's renomination was never in any real doubt, with the real issue being seen as who the party would nominate to replace Vice President Aaron Burr, whose relationship with Jefferson had soured. Governor George Clinton of New York was chosen as Jefferson's running mate, continuing the party's tradition of nominating a ticket consisting of a Virginian and a New Yorker. Vice presidential candidates: John Breckinridge from Kentucky, Governor George Clinton of New York, Postmaster General Gideon Granger from Connecticut, former Senator John Langdon from New Hampshire, Attorney General Levi Lincoln from Massachusetts, former Senator William McClay from Pennsylvania. Now, the ballot, this list of balloting, obviously presidential ballot, just Thomas Jefferson, and there's all your vice presidential ballots. Much more over there. Nobody's going up against TJ here on that side of it. So we go over to the Federalist Party drink. And this looks a little different. For President, Charles C. Pinckney. And for VP, Rufus King, former U.S. minister to Great Britain. So, got some new names here, guys.
Yeah, so Pinckney's not very well known. He was from South Carolina. He was a Revolutionary War veteran, delegate of the Constitutional Convention. He was, of course, he was in the presidential election prior. Or no, that wasn't Charles. That was Thomas. So he runs in this one, and then again in 1808. Surprise! Spoiler alert. But obviously, he wasn't president. So,
the Federalists did not hold a nominating caucus, but the Federalist congressional leaders informally agreed to nominate a ticket consisting of Charles Cotesworth Pinckney of South Carolina and former Senator Rufus King of New York. Pinckney's public service during and after the American Revolutionary War had won him national stature, and Federalist hopes that Pinckney would win some Southern votes away from Jefferson, who had dominated the Southern vote in the previous election. And there were 2 drinks inside of that.
Yes, there were. So this is the beginning of the end of the Federalist Party. Drink again. They never recover after the 1800 election. You never see them win the big ticket ever again. We'll later see other parties arise and come from the ashes and see some political movements again, as Philip referenced earlier, as things change across the country and our society adjusts and progresses forward. You start seeing new parties pop up. But yes, this is the end of the Federalist Party as you know it.
Now, if I may, like as the person on this particular panel who was the loyal Federalist voter, the reason why they fell out at this point is precisely for one of the things you said. Now, me as somebody who had been voting for the Federalists this whole time, the fact that they nominated these folks in a back door, not open to the public. It was just shake hands, but in smoky cigar-filled rooms. That's not really open to the people. So I would not have been voting this ticket. And for the first time, because also the economy's been doing spectacular. There's been a couple of scuffles with the Barbary Pirates, but I can deal with that. I'm going to vote for Thomas Jefferson for re-election. And also George Clinton for vice president, because that pretty much rounds out any of that hope of, well, Pinckney served in the Revolutionary War. Well, so did George Clinton. So there you go, folks. I bet you never thought you'd hear the words of Phil K.O.E. would vote for Clinton. I know, but
I gotta clip that out.
That's out of context.
Yeah.
That's beautiful out of context. So yes, I would have voted.
You're right. There's a lot of things that happened when Jefferson took over the Louisiana Purchase. One of the biggest fucking things, like you said, the economy's doing good. There's so much hope for America all of a sudden. Yeah, he's super, super popular for the Louisiana Purchase. Almost carried every state, including most of the Federalist strongholds in New England through this whole time period. This was like this. This election was this, like I said, this was like the end of the Federalist Party for me. Drink. Just when I announced the results, you'll understand why. Like it was pretty damning.
So who were you voting on?
Oh, Thomas Jefferson, of course.
And for VP?
George Clinton. So now this is 1804. So now the ticket has been ratified. That you pick your president and VP, and that's your ticket. So no longer first place, second place. 1804 added is it the 12th Amendment?
See, that's the thing, and that's why I'm looking at this on. I'm looking at this on Wikipedia, and it's got the vice presidential candidates listed here. But again, on the balloting,
I think they did like a primary to pick their VP. So I don't think he had a choice on George Clinton. I think he won. I think that's what that balloting is down there. I think that's
so
I could be wrong. Like I don't know.
So that's what I was wondering did they do some form? So if they did a primary, now when was that? I guess this is actually fairly interesting to me. Like when would they have actually held a primary to pick a vice presidential candidate?
Oh, let's find out here.
I thought that was just the general election.
So Congressional Nominating Caucus selected the ticket in February 1804. Unlike the previous election, nominating caucus did not meet in secret. Jefferson's renomination was never in a real doubt, blah, blah, blah. You mentioned that. Congressional Nominating Caucus. So 12th Amendment. I was correct on that. In 1804, the passage of in ballot, George Clinton defeated John Breckinridge and was nominated as Jefferson's running mate. Yep. So that's how they did it.
Okay.
Nice.
So I guess I'm mostly curious, like, what was it about George Clinton this time around that really put him over the edge? Because I guess we haven't really seen a lot of
fucking try, Tony. Okay,
exactly.
Give the guy fucking break.
I was about to say, I think at this point it's like, well, that old codger, he's as old as me, and you know what? I'm gonna send him to the Capitol. Because at this point, like all three of us got beards down to our bellies and a couple of marbles rolling around upstairs. We were like young men in the Revolution.
Like I remember
1770s,
voted for George Clinton,
and like now, like what year are we at now?
We're 1804.
Yeah, 1804. So yeah, we're a good ways past that. So we might not be fully old men, but yeah, our backs and knees ain't what they used to be at this point. So yeah, we're George Clinton is like, you know what, that old codger, I'm sending him to the Capitol. And you know what, that young kid Thomas Jefferson, I guess he made the economy all right. Like, oh God, what was Bill Clinton's advisor? It's the economy, stupid. It's
Oh God, I remember that line.
So
James Carville.
Just
there we go.
obviously, Phil was a loyal, drink Federalist, but if you were a Democratic Republican, was there anybody on this vice presidential ticket that you would have voted for over George Clinton? I'm saying no, just because he's the most familiar name there. I voted for him.
The only other one that people probably would have was Burr, but there was such a big fallout between Jefferson and Burr that I don't know if that caused Burr's end of political career or what.
He's not even on this ticket here.
No.
Again, it's just George Clinton, John Breckinridge, Levi Lincoln, who what did I say? He was Attorney General. John Langdon, and he's a senator. Gideon Granger, and William McClay. Now, none of those names have really popped up here. So, if you want to go for someone with tenure, someone who has some consistency in the political spectrum, obviously, it's
Alexander Hamilton. If I may, guys, the reason that he's not on the ticket is because Alexander Hamilton died July 12th, 1804. So Burr and Hamilton had their duel the summer before this election.
So there's one thing we did miss in the 1800 election. We need to go back with Burr. I completely fucking forgot about this because they technically tied and that bill had not been ratified. They actually had to go to the House of Representatives.
That cost him. Hamilton came out and said, no, go with Burr. Or don't go with Burr, go with Jefferson. And that was it.
Yep. So it was a tie in the Electoral College. So yes, that's ultimately what happened. And then Jefferson and Burr did not get along at all, even though they were same party, same affiliation. So I'm trying to read here to see what the fuck happened to him after. Because during the last year of his vice presidency, Burr engaged with a duel. He fatally shot Hamilton, his political rival, near where Hamilton's son Philip died 3 years prior. Although dueling was illegal, Burr was never tried, and all charges against him were eventually dropped. Nevertheless, Hamilton's death ended Burr's political career. So that was the end of it right there.
Yep. And so that's why Burr was not on the ticket, because he just murdered somebody to death.
Yes, a very, very
we're three-way
person.
We're in a three-way agreement on this one that this is all Thomas Jefferson and George Clinton.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So and so folks, that very interestingly, this is the first election where Tony G, Chicken, and Phil K.O.E. would all be voting the same tickets. And that is,
will never happen again.
Ever.
I was waiting, Phil. We kind of talked about it before Tony came on. Phil, I was really waiting for you during the George Washington one. Since George Washington technically was an independent, I was waiting for Phil to go, fucking Tony G, go fucking figure, vote for independent, go in third party, son of a bitch.
No, I figured Tony was gonna still write in Nader, Jorgensen, or Perot or something. I don't know. Nope, still going third party. Or no, Tony goes total third party. I'm writing in King George. Don't care.
Exactly. I'm going on the Crown Party.
The Crown.
With the Crown Party.
Awesome. What were the results of 1804?
Oh my God, the results were so bad. This is why I say is the end.
Obviously, the Federalist Party won.
Yeah, of course they did. So highest election to date. So the last one was 68,000. We jump up to 143,000 votes on here. A landslide. 72.8% of the votes going for Jefferson and George Clinton. So handily won with 162 of the electoral vote, and Pinckney got 14.
Wow.
So I don't know how this stacks up percentage-wise against all other elections, but I believe this stands for quite some time, if not all of time, as the most one-sided presidential election ever.
It's certainly one of them. We've had a few that like were
This
pretty
was bad.
one-sided wallopings, but yeah, this is it ended a political party in America.
Yes.
Okay, that's how bad that election went. So, but now I never thought I'd live to see the day. Tony, Chicken, Phil, all in agreement here, and this was the doorway to the next era of American history. And I think, Chicken, if I may,
Go ahead, Phil.
I think that is a perfect place to leave it for now. We got to leave a little mystery for all you beautiful people. We are going to get deeper into these How We Would Have Voted series. But folks, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us here on the Dog and Chicken Show for our very special election history edition. I am the devilishly handsome outlaw himself, your king of extreme, Phil K.O.E. You can find me at K.O.E Nation on YouTube and Twitch. You can also find all of us at Big Bucket Empire on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook for all of the crazy cast of characters that you can find at Big Bucket Empire. You can also find Tony, Chicken, Phil K.O.E. at Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. You know it's the right thing to do to follow all that beautiful content. But folks, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Raise a glass to yourselves, and I hope to see every last one of you back here, happy, healthy, much the wiser, until we meet again here at this crazy adventure we call life, and we'll cover it all here at the Dog and Chicken Show. Gentlemen, take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you, Phil. Federalist War, British, French.
Oh, it ain't over yet,
drink,
folks.
because I'm sure we
got a
missed
few more
whole
elections
bunch
to
of
cover.
drinking words through that whole goddamn thing. So yes, cheers to you folks. Sorry we missed those words, but this was kind of fun, and I look forward to the next one because it's only 3 presidents. Jesus, like that was 5 elections, and there's a lot of information now. You know, there's some lull moments that come up, but we're going to continue this series on kind of like we did with the last series. Go check it out. We started with Ruby Ridge, and then we jump on over and see what happened at Waco, and then we jumped on over and seen what happened as a result and how crazy and fast shit can get with the Oklahoma City bombing. This is going to be a much longer one, of course. But this is really fascinating stuff. I'm learning a lot. Hopefully you guys are too. And hopefully you appreciate this content. And yeah, I don't know, warms my heart. I learned a lot of stuff in the last few days researching for this episode. And I didn't get to cite half of what I wanted to. God damn it.
No, like me, I'm doing a presidential birthday toast series. And like, I didn't even touch on what the presidents like to drink. Like,
I know, right?
Like, it turns out Washington would drink Madero wine, but he also produced whiskey at his farm. Jefferson, huge into wine. I did get into that. And I have to mention before we go, Adams, the undisputed heavyweight of presidential drinking. The man drank all day, and by every account that you can read of him, it did not alter his countenance in any way. He was the biggest heavyweight in terms of being able to hold his liquor. He would drink hard apple cider with breakfast, for God's sake, and it didn't seem to even do anything to him.
Didn't phase him.
Yeah.
There was a fun fact about George Washington. He was irrationally scared of being buried alive. Like to the point where he actually said, I am just going, have me buried and do not let my body be put into a vault unless than 3 days after I'm dead. He was deathly afraid. Now, back then, it was a very common well, not a super common thing, but it happened quite more than it does today, where people were assumed dead. You know, they might get smallpox or some disease, and people were like, yeah, they wouldn't verify you're dead. They're just like, oh no. Like
wasn't a lot of embalming going on.
Well, there was actually people that were being embalmed alive. They weren't dead yet, and they would do some embalming. That happened. They actually had to like dig up graves and move them to new locations, and they would find people clawing from the inside of their caskets several times. So
God.
this was a thing. It was a really big deal in the 17th and 18th century, or 18th, 19th century was like the height of that phobia. And George Washington had probably one of the biggest fears of it.
Well, you know, also consider the fact that he was a general and he probably saw some pretty bad atrocities along the way. And he probably did see some people that were just, as a dick move, legitly buried alive. And so, yeah, that would probably be something that would stick with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let me see here. He died in 1799 at the age of 67. And I wish I had the source to cite here, but what he died of was probably pretty avoidable by today, not even today's medical standards. I mean, just fast forward like another 100 years.
Don't apply leeches.
Yeah, that's right. They
don't make your patient bleed out, and he would have survived.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I remember that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane to think.
We've come a long way, folks.
Fun fact about John Adams: they called him his rotundancy, because during so George Washington had just been elected president, but we didn't call him president. We didn't know what to call the position, and so him being kind of a pompous, like, elite, like, I want this to be his elegancy, and like everything was just so pompous with him. And while they argued this in the Senate for like 2 months of what to call the president, he wanted to be His Majesty President, and all this this pageantry that came with the name. And eventually they were just like, it's the fucking president, all right? And they just president, done. We're not doing this. But
that was George Washington's insistence at one point. It was actually one of the reasons John Adams found himself kicked out of cabinet meetings.
Yep.
I am the president and nothing more.
Yep.
And so, that was, because George Washington saw the need for a civilian position, and not like, yes, you're the head of the military, but you are also the head of the people. And so, God bless the fact that we had somebody with that much restraint as the first one. Otherwise, God only knows where we'd be. But yes,
it's
folks,
insane to think just if somebody else would have grasped political power, just how this country would have been shaped if it weren't for somebody with the actual levity to see with some foresight, not their own personal gain.
Yeah. I got one more fun fact. If you're ready. Thomas Jefferson's recorded last words and then his real last words. So Thomas Jefferson's got so many quotes, and libertarian loving people really, really love embracing Thomas Jefferson quotes. And so on his deathbed, said, I have done for my country and all for mankind, all that I can do. And now I resign my soul without fear to my God, my daughter, to my country. And then he fell asleep, woke up the next morning, still alive, asked his doctor, is it the 4th yet? And those were his actual last words. But at the time they recorded the first version.
Those other ones.
Yeah, dang. I was about to say
his doctor later wrote a book and said he actually woke up the next morning. He wasn't dead yet, and asked me if it was the 4th yet.
He asked you 1800s equivalent of what time is it? And then, Well, folks, you learn something new every day. God bless. Thanks for being here. K.O.E Nation on YouTube and Twitch, Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and of course, Big Bucking
there's more to come, folks.
on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You better be there because there's
we're not even close
more
to 1836 yet.
Here, folks.
Uh-oh. What's up?
I'm sorry. I totally forgot. I'm sorry. Before we sign off, we got to give you guys an update. Let's see what's going on over at Tomfoolery.
Aw,
damn. Shit. Nope. Still sleeping.
Well, it's important. Right. Well, at least we still got our little gotcha in there. Hey, folks, but thank you for being here. God bless, and you'd better make it back here to Big Bucking Empire. Gentlemen, take it away.
Tony?
Cheers, folks.
All right. As always, I don't have the outro pulled up. Now I do. All right. Appreciate it. Look forward. God, why am I coughing now?
Appreciate it.
live, episode 94, Thursday night next week. You will jump in, have some drinks, get the kids bed in, or get the kids in bed early.
We will be live
and join
tomorrow.
us live and have some drinks. It'll be a good time. We have a fucking boatload of awesome content between K.O.E. Nation and Big Bucket Empire. Stay tuned, folks. We got some fun stuff planned over the rest of the summer. And then, of course, as it cools off and you need to pick up that whiskey and sit inside this winter, we'll have some big plans for you then as well. So every Thursday, even episodes are live, odd episodes are recorded, but we're drinking along with you as if we're there with you. That's all I got. As always, appreciate you. Love you. Bah. And see if it just smooths itself out.
Tell you what I'll do. If I ever get back, I promise to refabricate you. Raging rivers of gold. That's what the brochure advertised. And now we're lost. We gotta take it down. Let you down slow. It's hard to survive.
Yes, folks, we're going to get right into the next part of this. And we're going to do that right here.
That was my accent. Suck.
Right now. Now, there was something up with this episode that y'all need to know, folks. I was going to be a little indisposed during this episode. It was detasseling season and the farm called, so I had to be doing that. So literally it was like 1 a.m. I record my picks and then I send it in, and it was Chicken, Tony, and Brendan of Dads Worldwide. Definitely a great YouTube channel you need to check out. He's part of our subscriber drive this evening. Here, there's different channels: K.O.E Nation, Big Bucket Empire, Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast, Yanked Up Podcast, and Dads Worldwide. Go subscribe to every last one of them on YouTube. Give them a like. Give them a share, and definitely give them a subscribe. It's the subscriber drive here on YouTube and the channels that we need you, K.O.E Nation, to give a subscribe to. Of course, K.O.E Nation, come on now, but you already are. Silly. Big Bucket Empire on YouTube. Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast on YouTube, Yanked Up Podcast on YouTube, Dads Worldwide on YouTube. You need to give them all a subscribe for this subscriber drive. But folks, without further ado, let's give this show its proper review. God damn it, I'm good. So yeah, folks, here we are. How I would have voted in every presidential election, part 2.
Record for a minute or two here and see if it just smooths itself out.
Tell you what I'll do. If I ever get back, I promise to refabricate you.
I'd like to guys introduce you guys real quick to our special guest. Just had him come into the room. Everybody, please welcome Tom Summery.
On this episode of Omegle.
I'm here, and your white privileges are going to save you tonight, okay, guys?
That's right. It's time for the Dog and Chicken Show.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Dog and Chicken Show, episode 97. We're bringing back our next round of presidential voting from back in the good old 1800s, when everybody, had a little. I don't know what the fuck that was. My accents suck. Anyway, starting my night off with a little mixed drink, but then we're gonna go straight into some fucking 1910 Old Forester. I'm told it tastes like marshmallows, so I'm excited.
It's good. It's good.
And as always, flanked to the right of your screen, Tony.
Tony fucking G, like, share, subscribe, folks. Right there. Hit that button. You know you want to. It'll feel tasty.
Touch them all.
Touch them
They
all.
want you to.
Every
They want
button.
you to.
All
You
the
have
links.
permission.
Yes. Make it rain on them links.
Do it.
Do it. And then down below to go along, our favorite libertarian of the in the entire world, Brendan fucking Roy from Dad's Worldwide. How you doing, brother?
Very well. Very well. Thanks for having me on again. Appreciate it. Always good to see
Yes,
you guys.
yes. I got about 5-10 minutes into your newest episode of, what was it, Parents Suck or something like that. Is it Your Parents Suck? Yeah. So I can't wait for the rest of it.
Yeah, it's all that stuff that you don't really think about anymore, but this, all the stuff that parents did that really not okay nowadays. or frowned
All
upon.
right. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm stoked to hear that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
You mean like blowing out candles while you got a Marlboro Red in your lips and dropping ash all over the birthday cake? Times were good.
Smoking in the car with all the windows up, all the kids in the back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one's laying in the back of the window.
Yeah.
No, there was a whole litter of us, and seatbelt laws like got introduced when we were kids, and there was too many of us in the car. Like we would have a old boat Ford LTD, and like it only sits 5 people, but there would be like 7 or 8 of us kids in the between everything. So every time we saw a cop, me and whoever was the smallest, but it was always me, get to the floor. And so I'd be laying on the floorboards in the back seat, so there weren't too many heads in the car. Yeah. Stupid shit.
We had the station wagon Ford LTD. It was actually in the, I think it was like an 85. It's the largest station wagon they made that decade.
I believe it.
Oh,
I believe it. Those LTDs were fucking huge.
Yeah, that was the Roy wagon.
The Roy wagon. And without further ado, everybody's like, oh, there's no Phil tonight. Yes, there is.
Phil. What?
Kind of Phil. Phil is with us in spirit. Phil is upset. He was going to be farming, was going to miss the show. So he, just for you folks, decided to send his thoughts on tonight's show. So we'll be sharing that as well. And he went ahead and drank along while recording this to, keep the feel going, because this is thirsty fucking Thursdays. So you see the drinking words down below: Wigs, Federals, COVID, and if Tony's kids interrupt the show. Without further ado, here is Phil.
Welcome, one and all, to the Dog and Chicken Show for a very special retrospective look back into the past for all of the presidential elections in our U.S. history. Last time we left off at the election of 1804, and we are picking up right where we left off. I am your King of Extreme, Phil K.O.E., the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes the other podcast cower. You can find me at K.O.E Nation on YouTube and Twitch. Gentlemen, how are we doing this fine evening? And as you can see, what I'm having this evening, man down, medic, Woodford Reserve Double Oak, wine, beer, and spirit store pick. It served me well. But it felt apropos. So, gentlemen, I hope you're having a marvelous evening and you're having a spirit of comparable enjoyment.
All right. So we'll have several clips of Phil as we move on. And as you saw in his
so without further ado, let's
oh my
get
god, even when he's not here, he's talking over us.
Son of a bitch, Phil. Shut up. God, what a dick. Always
Right?
doing that shit.
That was actually the perfect blooper. Thank you.
That is a great, we're leaving that in.
Oh, hell yeah.
So We're going back in time. Should we do the no? Yeah, that's fine. Going back in time to 1808. So in the spirit of this whole thing, again, so Nebraska doesn't exist, Iowa doesn't exist, New Hampshire exists. So Brendan, you get to be your current job in your current state, and we pretend you're in 1808. And how would you have voted and reacted in that specific election? So I guess I'm still in New York working at a dock, I guess, because that's what Phil assigned me in this whole project.
Which you got.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think I was in Virginia.
Yeah. He's a Virginia farmer.
Yeah.
Well, it was all country back then, right? So I guess, well, I mean, I guess
it was
New York
all
was still a city.
orange groves.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, are we assuming that we are the freedom-loving people that we are now? Are we? Is that
With
what
your morals and characters would have been, and what would have impacted your livelihood and your job, because that may cause you to flip sides on some things. So just like you'd vote today, but you're in 1808, and you don't know what these people did after they got elected either.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a very important rule.
Yeah, I think I would end up going with Madison. Him being just one of the originals, right? One of the OGs.
Yeah, he's the writer of the Constitution, and
yeah, I mean, who else would you want leading the country than someone that helped write it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the way I would go.
You're coming off of 2 terms of Thomas Jefferson, and very popular, especially his first term. Second term wasn't that great, but still, people, if he would have ran a third time, he probably would have won. But he tried to stick to tradition, as George Washington had said, no more than 2 terms. But James Madison was pretty much Thomas Jefferson in a nutshell, except for he was a lot smaller, because the dude was he was really short and like 100 pounds.
Not only that, but Madison had been serving as Secretary of State since Thomas Jefferson took office in 1801. So he's 7 years into being Secretary of State. So yeah, you're right. This is basically a transition of power. So if you're looking at the ticket, we're finding ourselves starting to vote towards one political party or the other, which we've kind of fallen into that groove already here. The Democratic Republican James Madison taking over for Thomas Jefferson. It's pretty obvious who the voters are going to flock towards, right? And as a fellow Virginian in this scenario, James Madison is an
You're going homeboy.
Yeah. You have to at this point. And not just that, but because Charles Pinckney's, he's kind of a storied loser at the presidential elections at this point. So really, this is an open and shut for me. I'm going James Madison. He's the same party. He's from Virginia. It's just a transition from Thomas Jefferson to him. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, they believe in that small central power, right? And the Federalists didn't. So I mean, how do you I mean, if you don't believe in a strong central power, then you can't vote for a Federalist.
Correct. And Federalists are kind of
there's 2 things that Jefferson did at his end of his term that kind of questionable as far as strong central power.
Yeah, he was he kind of gave himself a lot more power and was a little bit contradictory of his stance on a lot of things. But but to say that the Democratic Republicans still were favored above the Federalists even after granting himself that much power to the executive branch says a lot about how unpopular the Federalists were at that time. As we're slowly adding more states and more people are being allowed to vote, it's separating or they're running away with it, I should say.
Yeah, what was the percentage of people that could vote back when? Was it like 2 or 3%?
So at this time, in this election, there was 186,000 votes cast in this election. So that was a 36.8% turnout of eligible voters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it So that's 36%. So pretty much 600,000 people allowed to vote in this election, roughly, in a country of I don't know, is probably close to 4 million people. So it was like landowners. You had to be white. Yeah. Not a lot of people allowed to vote at this time.
No.
And you had to be male. Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
And looking at it that way, it's easy to see that people are going to go with what they're familiar with.
Yeah, and you pick the Virginia homeboy. That's going to come up more and more as we get through some of these, and and some of the strategies they use in the coming elections. Let's see here. So let's see, popular vote. I guess I would have voted for James Madison as well. Obviously, it's more of the party at this time, Democratic Republican Party at that time, was the more of the, for the people, by the people. Like it was more of let's keep the power where it came from. It was really weird. There was this sector of like Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut that were heavy Federalist, but everybody else from like New Hampshire, Vermont, all the way down to Georgia, with the small exception of North Carolina, had a little bit of Federalist, but pretty much everybody else was on Madison's side here. I think
there was a little bit of
Clinton was the third party, so I'm surprised you didn't vote for that one.
Well, see, okay, yeah, that's the thing, because Madison's running mate was, of course, George Clinton, and there was a little bit of turmoil within because James Monroe and Clinton were both kind of jockeying for position, like, hey, maybe we should challenge Madison, but Madison ended up ultimately winning the leadership of the party for the presidential candidacy.
We won't. Wrong guy.
Close. No, I think that's accurate.
Yeah, we'll give it to you. So he got 122 electoral votes. He carried the 12 states. You see the percentages there and kind of the map breakdown on the screen. Should we jump over and see what Phil thinks in this whole scenario? Let's see here. Since he tried to interrupt us early, I'll unmute him for a moment.
So, without further ado, let's get right in to the election of 1808. We have got the returning Charles Pinckney with his vice presidential candidate, Rufus King. And he is going up against Thomas Jefferson's golden boy, his hand-selected successor, because Thomas Jefferson decided he would continue the tradition of 2 terms and then go home, and he went home to Monticello shortly thereafter.
Hey, Brendan, how we doing there?
At that point,
I'm gonna hit a quick pause there. I was a bit distracted there for a moment, but hey, I see how we doing there. Wrong one. For those who do not know, Brendan is one of the other marvelous voices, but here he is right there, Dad's Worldwide. He is one of the channels that we're doing on the subscriber drive this evening. K.O.E Nation, Big Bucket Empire, Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast, Yanked Up Podcast, and Dad's Worldwide right here. Give him a subscribe on YouTube. And it looks like he's got a Twitch. Follow him there too, folks. You know it's the right thing to do.
Like I said, Madison was the kind of chosen one, if you will. And they also gave the vice presidency once again to, I believe it was George Clinton, to try and stop any presidential hopes of his. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But yes, so it came down to Madison versus George Clinton. So how would your king of extreme have decided this very important election? Well, you've got the previous candidate, pretty much the same ticket as 1804, and that's not a good thing. I don't think that's a positive selling point at all. I think that's actually quite a negative. So to me, I would say putting up a loser a second time is not a good idea. And despite any reservations I would have with Madison because of the Embargo Act, which wasn't really bad, like it just had really bad effects. And if we're going along with the idea that I was a farmer in Connecticut, I think it'd be fair to say that at this point, Paul had died between the last elections, and now I am the son of the previous video's avatar, if you will. So, as the son of a revolutionary and a farmer in Connecticut, I would have to look at the fact that Madison wrote the Bill of Rights, for God's sake. So that would kind of override any trepidation I had. So I would, with a little bit of trepidation, in the end, vote for one James Madison. Yes, the father of the Bill of Rights will hold the office if I have my say. Now, gentlemen, if you have your say, how would you go for this particular election?
I love how Phil just assumes that we played his video before everything else. So,
Why wouldn't I?
okay, maybe we'll play Phil first this time.
Yeah, but yeah, I think
No idea.
Who's James Madison?
Yeah.
We're on a totally different election. What the fuck are you talking about, Phil? So we all agree.
Yeah.
Going with James Madison. Nobody really cares about Pinckney.
Yeah, like Phil said, the same thing I was thinking. Like, you put him in there how many times, he's a historical loser, and once again he gets beat by over 2/3 of vote. So, yeesh, it's not a good look.
Yeah, yeesh. Might be why. Like, I've always wondered, like, what would have happened if Al Gore would have kept trying? Would he have been the next Pinckney?
Oh, absolutely. It's not like he got more likable.
What?
Yeah, I know. We'll get there eventually, right? We'll get there eventually.
Eventually. All right. Should we go to 1812?
Yeah,
a couple of things have changed in the country.
Do we let Phil tell us about it this time?
Yeah. We bring up Phil and see if he misses anything on here. We all know the year 1812, so this gets a little spicy and things heat up a little bit. So let's let me switch that over. I'm on too many screens here. I'm getting confused again. All right, Phil. Kick us off. Take it away. He's got a long pause here, apparently.
And now we move on to the election of 1812 between, once again, President Madison and DeWitt Clinton. This one would be very difficult for your King of Extreme because now Madison, I didn't mention last time, but Madison was an interesting fella. Him and Thomas Jefferson really agreed on the idea of wine as opposed to whiskey to be the alcohol of choice for America. They thought that would be a huge cultural must. And in a lot of ways, Madison totally agreed with Jefferson in that. But in the end, as you can see, let's say whiskey did kind of win out in North America. This one would be very difficult as a election because Madison's war, the War of 1812, I would not have been impressed. To quote George St. Pierre, I am not impressed by your performance. We had the executive manor destroyed. If it wasn't for Madison's wife, there's a lot of great pieces of art that would have been destroyed forever. Our soil was invaded, our capital destroyed. Not a good report card. Not a good report card. No. So I would begrudgingly be going for DeWitt Clinton. I know. Once again, you had me on record saying I would have voted for a Clinton. Oh God. Oh, know that this is in context, folks. Know that I would. Goodness gracious. But yes, the War of 1812 would have not been a very impressive thing to have to run with. But we will see. And gentlemen, I hand it back to you back at the studio.
All righty. So, Phil, not impressed by his performance. And again, I knew it. He's a closeted Clinton fan. I've been saying it for like a couple decades now. I got him on record now 2 times. I'm gonna have to clip those out, and that's gonna have to make our intros.
Yeah, I think so. The big thing here is that DeWitt Clinton and James Madison, the incumbent, are both Democratic Republicans at this point. But the Northern Democratic Republicans, this is all according to Wikipedia, of course, had long been dissatisfied with the Southern dominance of their party, and DeWitt Clinton's uncle, Vice President George Clinton, had unsuccessfully challenged Madison for the party's 1808 nomination. So you've got 2 people from the same party, but here's the thing: the funny part, if you look down here towards the bottom, the Federalists were kind of in DeWitt Clinton's corner, but they were afraid if they went ahead and actually endorsed him on the record, that it would actually hurt his chances. So that tells you a lot about the popularity of the Federalist Party at this point. So you had 2 people from the same party vying for the position at this point, which actually is pretty interesting when you look at it now.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other things that get added into this. So the Federalist Party did nominate Jared Ingersoll. He was the vice president nominee during this time. Let's see. Let's see. The other Federalist candidates, so DeWitt Clinton obviously ended up being the main guy on the ticket, but John Marshall, the Chief Justice of the United States, he declined to be a part of it at this time, but he was a very, very popular individual around that time. And then other things to consider, we just added a new state. We added Louisiana with 3.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. So now more and more people allowed to cast a vote in this election. And as Phil brought up, the War of 1812 goes on raging for 3 years, where, we got troops on or foreign troops invading, and a lot of chaos going on. So this was a pretty close one.
Yeah, this one was a lot closer than the last one, whereas that was more than 2/3 Madison won. This time it was 128 electoral votes to 89. So, and that's 11 states for Madison and 7 for Clinton. So this is a much, much closer one, 50.4% to 47.6%. And the popular vote being 140,431 in Madison's favor to 132,781. This is very, very close. So I think it really comes down to, like Phil said, War 1812. Now, as a Virginian in this scenario again, it would have been hard-pressed to not pick the homer, the guy that's the incumbent, the guy that you voted for last time. But the way I leaned last time was I didn't want to – towards the end of the voting cycles that we talked about, I was starting to go, we don't need to enter any new wars. And I would probably start taking that into account. So I think I probably – would have maybe gone with DeWitt Clinton as well. I mean, you go, well, if I'm a Democratic Republican at this point, technically, so is he. So it's not like I'm cheating on my party. So it actually looked pretty inviting to pick him instead of James Madison, the incumbent.
Yeah, it was really weird back at this time too, because like a lot of these guys didn't really campaign. Like most people did it for them. Like they just kind of dicked around most of the time. So it's really interesting that it was that close during a war. Like it's campaigning back in 1812, obviously way different than today. And you're only chasing after the 600,000 people, but it would take you forever to get to Louisiana from the White House to go campaign. Like they're not visiting these places.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that he was able to win during a war that he started.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
And not very popular one either. So, I really, I'm I'm kind of surprised that Clinton didn't win just for that reason. And I think it may have been the Federalists actually backed him. If they would have just kept their dirty noses out of the race, DeWitt Clinton might have taken it. And he's related to George Clinton, and George Clinton's a badass, so I would definitely go with DeWitt Clinton.
Yeah, I think I voted for George Clinton in one of the elections previously, so I think I would have been tempted as well. I think I'm going to say it. Yeah, DeWitt Clinton, man. For sure.
Yeah, George Clinton.
Yeah, I probably would agree, because we saw Thomas Jefferson, on his second term start abusing his power. Now we've seen James Madison, highly popular, two of our main writers of Bill of Rights and Constitution. And then we see like James Madison, like Will said, he started this war. He made this happen.
This is a example of don't poke the bear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Perfect example.
Completely unnecessary. This did not have to happen. Nobody wanted it to happen. And he I don't know if it was an ego thing or what Madison was thinking, but I probably would have been on a DeWitt Clinton side, because I can see the trend of what's happening here when your very popular founder gets elected and his ego takes over on that second term. That's a little scary to me. So yeah. But yeah, it was 5'6" James Madison was. He was the only president that did not do the knee-high breeches. He did full long length pants because he was so damn short. I assume it was hard to find short pants like that. And
still hard.
Hard to find pants there, T.
It is sometimes.
It is. So yeah, the smallest and shortest president to date, James Madison, gets reelected in 1812.
Okay.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Stupid little guy. All right, let's see what Phil's going to introduce for us. In 1816, the War of 1812 is over. James Madison's second term is coming to an end. Let's see what the Phil, King of Extreme, has to say heading into a new election cycle.
Now we arrive at the election of 1816. So we've got Monroe, the doctrine is in, versus that charisma powerhouse himself, Rufus King. This one would be difficult for me because, again, I would be holding my nose and reluctantly giving power to the Virginia boys. Again, like I'd given so with Madison and now Monroe. I'm not really liking it. But again, like I said, I voted against Madison in his re-election, but Monroe was a very charismatic guy. And also with the Hartford Convention for the Federalists, when talk of secession started coming out of their mouths, like that would have sent somebody like me like, whoa, we are a fresh new union and you are wanting to already break us apart with this talk of secession? So that would have driven me away, like, just I would have recoiled from that. So reluctantly, I would have handed power again to the Virginia boys because at least they respected our revolution and understood the spirit of it, even though they got a lot of flaws. So reluctantly, I would vote for Monroe because the secessionist talk was just more than I could personally handle. And Monroe, another lover of the idea of American wine culture, and he was a good friend of Thomas Jefferson. And funny enough, when Monroe was actually elected, he preferred Burgundy wine. Jefferson preferred Bordeaux. When he became elected, Jefferson sends him this really long letter, and literally the 90% of the letter was just Jefferson talking about the kind of wines that Monroe should order and who should be ordered for what guests, and which was just fascinating to me because literally the first paragraph is, Well, congratulations on being elected president. So wonderful to see that you have assumed the office, Mr. President, and I wish you all the best. All right, now let's talk about the wine we should order. And they would also talk about, like, should we throw down on wine orders? And so I can only imagine how expensive the liquids must have been on those ships coming back, because Monroe, he really liked his wine, but nobody liked it quite like Jefferson. He was, yeah, he's the undisputed heavyweight of presidential wine loving. But yes, Monroe, I would say, would be a close second for that. So yes, Monroe in the election of 1816, the doctrine is in.
There we have it with
All right.
Phil. All right. And
Doctrine is in.
yeah.
What a cheesy bitch.
You know, he's kind of good at being a cheesy bitch, though.
Yeah.
He knows it too.
Yes, he does.
I heart K.O.E.
So Rufus King comes back. He was a vice president candidate 2 elections ago.
The K.O.E.
He
Nation
kind of
hearts you
separated
too.
himself on the last election, not wanting to, attach his cart to that horse with what was going on. But now he's back as a Federalist, going against
Drink.
James Monroe. Oh shit! Yeah, I drink. We haven't
Yeah, I
been
would
playing
say we
along
probably
with this,
had
have we?
like 10 different times where
Yeah.
we said the F word.
Yeah, that's
so,
fair.
just
Oh yeah,
keep
I think we said the F word.
I said the F word. Yeah.
Well, don't worry. After this year, we won't have to say it again much. So,
Hopefully.
yeah, Rufus King. This is what is it with this party and reinserting perennial losers, right? I understand, like, the field wasn't huge, I'm sure, during all these elections,
yeah.
but and name is a name is a name, but and again, this is very telling to what this party was doing at the time, because they just didn't seem to have a grasp on what was going to really resonate with the voting public. And this actually had a pretty good voter turnout, it looks like, with all things considered, after coming off of a war. 16.9% of 23.5, if I'm reading this correctly. Not great, but not bad. It does look like it's down, I think.
It's
but...
down 23.5%.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm looking at this
Yeah.
incorrectly. Okay, that makes more sense.
We had a 40% last vote almost.
Okay,
Something
yeah,
like
that makes more sense. Like, why would it be so close?
So
of registered
17% of 600,000 to 700,000 voters.
That makes more sense.
That's so nobody was excited about either of these guys.
No, because if you look at this, the popular vote, wow, it barely over 100,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was some bad ones in this so far, but yeah, this might
that's
be
rough.
That's
maybe
an
one of
asset
the
of Rufus,
toughest.
though. He's probably their best loser.
So looking at this, the big thing is we said this about the last one, the War 1812. People were down. We all went the other way instead of going with Madison because of the war. The war kind of got attributed to the Democratic Republicans, and a lot of people saw it as, hey, you did a good job with it. We didn't like it, but you did what you had to do, and you did a good enough job with it. So kudos, I guess, even though we didn't like it to begin with. So I think that's what really swayed this in Monroe's favor coming out of the gate, with Rufus King being, the guy who didn't win the vice presidency last time. So right out of the gate, he's got a head start on it. So again, this is a Virginia versus a New York candidate. This is, of course, again, Democratic Republicans against drink Federalists. So how are you guys thinking on this one?
So this was sabotaged by Monroe, or not Monroe. This was sabotaged by Madison the last election. So if you can read through some of that there. But so some of the measures that the Federalists were asking for, Madison put into place after 1815 when the war had ended. Put in a national bank, added some tariffs. So like what are Federalists going to run on? Hey, we gave you what you wanted. So like what's their next step? Those were their hills to die on. And they already had them. So like anything beyond that may have looked, like Phil had said, the secession talk, like it just left them with only the bad things that people disliked about Federalists at the time. So like I think some of that been like, hey, I think I side with Phil on this one. I'd go with Monroe on here just because, like, hey, I know Rufus King seemed to distance himself from a lot of that talk, but he's representing that party, and the party's still acting that way. So, yeah, I would have definitely been with Monroe. Doesn't look like any new states were added, but a couple of key names did pop up that declined to run in this one. We're going to hear a lot more about in the coming elections. Henry Clay, the Speaker of the House from Kentucky, his name is starting to get thrown around a lot. People wanted him, and also former Justice of the State Supreme Court of Tennessee and war hero Andrew Jackson. His name is starting to get thrown around in the political ether at this time too. So it's kind of a lull when you start looking at like how many votes they got. But there's some exciting names popping up here that some enthusiasm starting to get behind.
Yeah,
I think.
like this.
I think so. Go ahead, Brent.
Sorry. Yeah, I feel like this is an easy decision. I don't know why Phil was so torn about it. I mean, James Monroe, again, one of the OGs. And I should say that Madison on a second
build
term.
a little drama.
What a
Brendan.
dick!
Sheesh.
Yeah,
I mean, wow, just
dick move.
Yeah, I mean, so much stuff. Like he's such a what a bitch. All right, so James Monroe, with the likes of oh man, I would just had it too. He was against ratification. So for me, I love the guy. So I would that's an easy one. Rufus King. The only thing he's got going for him is he's against slavery. So.
Yeah, one of the very few that is publicly standing against it.
That was a really brave stance back in those times. Like, I mean, you really think about it. You want to talk about not a popular stance. Be anti-slavery back in those days.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Tony, did you cast your vote?
I think this one's kind of tough because, again, if you didn't go with James Monroe last time, why would you go with him this time? So it really just kind of depends on what your stance is with and how they handled the war and what they did with the results of that. So it'd probably be a reluctant vote for, again, the Virginian boy, the incumbent, James Monroe, just because you look at Rufus King and you go, okay, well, they tried this. He didn't do well last time. So how can I vote for that? Okay, this guy got us through a war. He's the incumbent. He knows what he's doing. Okay, I guess tenure wins out. I'd probably go with James Monroe. And looking at the results, let me pop them back up here because I had to refresh. I apologize. I think a lot of people were thinking the same thing because, woo boy, electoral vote, James Monroe, 183 to Rufus King's 34. States carried 16-3. Woof. Woof, woof, woof.
Swing and a miss by the Federalists once again.
Yep, and that pretty much seals it up for them. Drink.
Yeah, I did say it, damn it.
He said it like 5 times. I tried to keep up.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, once again,
the
Democratic Republicans walk away with another one. So, will they get taken down a peg in the 1820 election? Let's ask Phil.
Well, before we go to that, what this did, this was the nail in the coffin to the F words.
What?
A
monumental failure? No.
This pretty much did it. And so that makes 1820 even that more, either more or less interesting, depending on how you feel about that election. But let's get Phil's take as we've been doing all night here. Let's see what Phil thinks about this one.
And now we move on to the election of 1820. And the contenders are Monroe, versus Monroe. Huh. Yeah, this is the era of good feelings. There was nobody that even felt the need to run against Monroe. Now, I have one question, though. One question alone. And I know somehow, some way, Tony G, you found a way to still vote third party on this. So I'm curious to see how you pulled it off. Maybe you're going to write in George Clinton again. I don't know. But I'm waiting bated breath on this side of space and time.
What a dick.
What a piece of shit. I think I will write in George Clinton just to fuck with him. No, yeah, this is one of those really interesting ones. I'll pop it on the screen anyway, even though it's completely unnecessary at this point. But yes, 1820. Here you can see 1820 United States presidential election. The nominee, James Monroe of the Democratic Republican Party from Virginia, with his running mate Daniel D. Tompkins, unopposed. Monroe and Vice President Daniel D. Tompkins faced no opposition from other Democratic Republicans in their quest for a second term. The Federalist Party had fielded a presidential candidate in each election since 1796, but the party's already waning popularity had declined further following the War of 1812. Although able to field a nominee for vice president, the Federalist could not put forward a presidential candidate, leaving Monroe without organized opposition. Woof. Woof again.
Woof indeed. We did have new states added at this time as well, but well, what a time to join the Union. You don't even get to play a part in the election process, really. There's a lot going on in this time. There was a Missouri Compromise, of course, and I think it was Illinois, Missouri, Mississippi, and Alabama are official states now. I may have missed one in there. Funny part is Monroe, even though pretty much running unopposed, still only got 80% of the vote.
Yeah, this one's interesting. Yeah, states carried 24 and 80% 0.6. And the popular vote, 87,343 for a total of 231 electoral votes. Secretary of State, J.Q.A. John Quincy Adams, received the only other electoral vote, which came from faithless elector William Plummer.
Nice. How about this? The Federalists had 0 candidates and still got 17,000 votes. They hated James Monroe so fucking much, they would rather vote for nobody.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I don't think there's really much dispute here unless you're so jaded by the results of 1816, even though we all pretty much agreed. This is an obvious choice. This is going to be for the Virginia boy again, James Monroe, Democratic Republican candidate, unopposed. I'm not going to write anybody in. No, this is an easy one.
10% turnout. I probably would have been on the 90% side of this.
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't have voted. I'm gonna be real. I wouldn't have voted. Are you muted, Brendan?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Monroe's first term was all that horrific, so I probably would just vote for him again.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess there's not a lot to talk about Monroe. I mean, he only had the one faithless elector.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The Monroe Doctrine.
Yeah.
I mean that's pretty huge.
Yeah, that alone
basically
is a good reason why he didn't have opposition.
Yeah. Yep. So to be disengaged from Europe completely, unless we're attacked, that's a pretty
good stance.
That's pretty awesome in my view. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is an open shot one. And yeah, I guess it's weird that they didn't even attempt to put in another perennial loser. That's how disjaded.
I mean, what was Rufus doing?
He was vacationing in Europe at the time, probably.
You could have got 20, probably.
Yeah.
Poor Rufus.
Or Rufus. Nobody really cares about Rufus.
My,
Rufus is
my
a
pug,
dick.
my pug's middle name is Rufus. Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
17,000 people voted for nobody. That's
He
awesome.
probably
Yep.
liked more Rufus King.
Oh, I like my Otis better. My
Yeah.
Otis Rufus. He's much better.
All right. 1824. Let's do this. It's got to get better. Got to get better from
Right.
here.
Right.
The election of 1824. Four-way dance. Henry Clay, Andrew Jackson, John Quincy Adams, and William Crawford. William Crawford was, oh boy, this didn't age well, the pro-slavery candidate. So, out. No. Farmer from Connecticut, like, nope, throwing that one right out. Nope, not even considering it. Andrew Jackson, probably one of the most popular people in this election, considering the fact he didn't want to run, but people just campaigned for him, which is just kind of funny. Which is, I just know that's something Tony's gonna love. Just like he didn't even want to do it, people campaigned for him. So yes, but at this point, I wasn't quite ready for that. Henry Clay seemed to be a very charismatic person that a lot of people liked. Understandable. But to me, again, when you keep in mind, Pa was so loyal to John Adams and voted for him so many times before he passed away of what the doctors deem bone madness. Yes, I would have to say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I would have to vote for one John Quincy Adams for the presidency out of loyalty to General Washington and out of loyalty for what was a very competent administration throughout the beginning of our country. So yes, I would once again, this farm family would cast another ballot for the Adams family.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Fucking
You
wow.
fucking dick. I can't
Wow.
believe he did that.
I can. I absolutely
He's fired.
can.
He's fired.
Yeah, that's
No-
fine.
No more Phil. He's kicked off the show after that. So it's John Quincy Adams, or everybody says Quincy. It's Quincy.
Yeah.
The way you pronounce it is really weird. Only dorks will correct you in the moment.
Yeah, it's spelled fucking Quincy, so fuck him.
He was a fascinating character. So he was one of the ones that was very adamantly against slavery. And actually in his whole time, in I think he was in the House of Representatives for a while. He'd done a lot of prior work, but like he had done a lot of grandstanding, if you will, in a lot of hearings, trying to debate slavery and human rights and why this is wrong. So he had a huge following behind that. Also being a Democratic Republican at the time, he's on the right side of things. He's not one of those old, nasty, dirty drink Federalists that we keep hearing about in the early 1800s that nobody liked.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to drink on that. But yeah, there's a lot to look at with Quincy Adams. This is also, like I said, it was the end of the F-word party, and now we're starting to see new factions arise. We also do have Missouri as one of the new states. Like they were kind of in it last time, but nobody really cared. Same thing with Illinois and Alabama, Mississippi. But now they get a part. They get to play a part in this election. And it was very interesting with this race, how it all broke down and how it actually ended. If it were me, Crawford, probably no. I may have been more of either a Henry Clay or an Andrew Jackson, which they kind of sound opposites at times. I'd like, Jackson was one of those super popular war hero. He almost had like a modern day cult following. But Henry Clay, he had like Monroe type power. Like he held that kind of aura. Everybody, was like, era good feelings. How do we keep that going? Henry Clay's your guy. So I probably would have been torn between them. And honestly, I probably would have voted for Henry Clay in this election.
Yeah, this is so hard. I want to do the anti-slavery guy, but John Quincy Adams is just, he seems like a swarmy douche. Like he's like a mutual fund
establishment. He's elite.
You know what I mean? Like, his dad was John Adams, right? And he did nothing but like travel the world, and man. And then Henry Clay's like, he's a politician, right? Like he's there. He
says all the right things.
Oh yeah, he's making deals. He's and like you said, Andrew Jackson has the cult following and is kind of a badass. Mm-hmm. So, man, this is a tough one. And then that other guy's running too.
Yes, William H. Crawford. Yeah, very popular.
He's from Connecticut. He's a douche. All right.
He's from Georgia. He's from Georgia.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Phil said he was a Connecticut farmer or something.
I'm looking at it here, and yes.
Oh yeah, it does say Georgia, doesn't it?
Yeah, William H. Crawford, a Democratic Republican, alliance to the old Republican Party, and home state of Georgia. There you go. Phil don't know shit.
Okay.
Not that influences you
at all. Yeah. I think I might go for Andrew Jackson.
Oh, you're one of the ones that threw a wrench in this.
Yep. I'm a wrench thrower.
This is tough. So, yeah, John Quincy Adams. Just that name alone, I think, would have been enough. The pronunciation of that would have been enough to make me go, "Yeah, fuck that guy." I don't.
He's a borderline serial killer, right? You say all three names.
Yeah, look at this guy. Like, no, I don't think I can do it. Like, I could just cop out and be like, yeah, he seems like the likely winner, but I don't know. There's three other options, so I probably wouldn't have gone with John Quincy Adams. Andrew Jackson with the cult following. Yeah, that's pretty appealing to me. Fuck you, Phil. Yes, Henry Clay, obviously another. You're looking at this guy and you're like, okay, he's making some noise. I like that. So probably would have come between Clay and Jackson for me. But man, that William H. Crawford, I tell you what, he's just so savvy and Georgian that I think I probably would have gone ultimately with Henry Clay, but it would have been probably pretty close between him and Andrew Jackson. I don't think I would have gone with Quincy Adams. So I don't know. This is an interesting one because you really started seeing a lot of division here. Because if you look at the parties, they're all Democratic Republicans, of course. But if you look at the running mates, it's funny because Adams and Jackson both have John C. Calhoun, whereas Crawford has Nathaniel Macon and Henry Clay has Nathan Sanford. And you don't see any Virginians, so that obviously influences a lot of people. And it's funny because you look at the alliance. Adams-Clay Republicans for Quincy Adams, and the Jacksonian Alliance for Andrew Jackson. Wonder where they got that name. The old Republicans for Crawford, and the Adams-Clay Republican for Clay. So you really start to see the division stacking up here, which is really interesting for a four-way dance for the presidential election.
Well, and this is one of the. So I said the last one was the nail in the coffin. This one was the dirt thrown on the grave. It's over. It's done. Federalists will no longer be talked about. Drink. From here on out. 1824 presidential election marked the final collapse of that political framework. The electoral map confirmed the candidate's sectional support. And this is where the ball game changes, folks. With Adams taking New England, Jackson having the wide majority voter appeal, Clay taking votes from the West and some from the South. And then
I'm sorry. We must do this for a moment, folks. Let me get my ears on so I know I'm okay. Folks, everyone, raise a glass to the Federalists. Federalists no more. And we continue.
the remaining South, Crawford taking East and South. Jackson, like I said, the plurality of electoral votes, he had out of the 365,000 votes, almost half. He won, not even being a candidate. Andrew Jackson wins the popular vote and the well, there's no electoral victor here because he only got 99. How many did we need to win this one? Do you have it pulled up?
To win, it was 131 necessary to win.
131 necessary to win. So technically, none of these folks actually reached that that amount. So this election
spread out
gets sent to the House of Representatives to hold a contingent election on February 9th of 1825. This is where the 12th Amendment comes into play, folks. So the House was limited to choosing from among the three candidates who received the most votes. So Jackson, Adams, and Crawford. Henry Clay, who had finished fourth, was eliminated. Each state delegation voting had a single vote. There were 24 states at the time. Thus, an absolute majority of 13 votes was required for victory. Clay detested Jackson and said of him, "I cannot believe that killing 2,500 Englishmen at New Orleans qualifies for the various difficult and complicated duties of the chief magistrate." Moreover, Clay's American system was closer to Adams' position on tariffs and internal improvements than Jackson's. Even if Clay had wished to align with Crawford over Jackson, which was highly unlikely, Clay was not a fan of either of them. In any event, since Clay's policy differences with Crawford were deeper, especially on matters of the tariff, the fact that Crawford had been in poor health, no path to victory was going to be evident there. So ignoring the non-binding directive of the Kentucky legislature that its House delegation chose Jackson, the delegation voted 8-4 for Adams instead. Clay used his political influence in the House to motivate House delegations in states where he had won at least a voting plurality to vote for Adams. Thus, Adams now being elected president on the first ballot with 13 states, followed by Jackson with 7 and Crawford with 4. So Clay decided this election effectively.
Wild.
Kind of shady.
Yeah. So this shocked Jackson, of course. He was likely very, very pissed. This guy was already kind of a loose cannon. So
he should have campaigned. He didn't even bother throwing his hat in. Come on, people were doing it for him. If he would have put that forward to begin with, maybe this would have gone differently.
Yeah. So there was a lot of this is where political ads start coming out. You start seeing media attacks and anonymous statements appearing in popular newspapers. There was one said to be a former member of Congress essentially accused Clay of selling Adams his support for the office of Secretary of State. So there's a lot of accusations being around of behind the door deals and other things going on of why Clay would choose Adams
It was said that Clay actually approached Jackson as well and offered his support in exchange for assurances that he would not appoint Quincy Adams as Secretary of State. Jackson replied, "Say to Mr. Clay and his friends that before I would reach the presidential chair by such means, I would see the earth open and swallow both Mr. Clay and his friends and myself with them."
So, beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it sounds like Clay was shopping his support.
Yeah, this is political corruption at its best, and duped us. He's a politician at heart. You said it, Brendan, and duped me and Tony into throwing our vote towards him.
And this is what makes really this decision so hard because we're trying to be non-biased. We're trying to be like, oh, we were back then, but I'm reading these bios on these people and I'm like, he's a piece of shit.
That guy's a fucking asshole.
You know, so I'm like, I don't want to choose him, but would I have? I don't know. I might have, you know, fall prey to his wonderfulness.
It's all the early stages of the propaganda and the political parties, and
seriously,
how good is word of mouth,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's so why is this pop up here? This is now, this kind of turns in that you see some reflections into modern day politics as we talked about. The F word party is now gone. John Quincy Adams, his election kind of sparked the separation of the Democratic Republican Party. Now he became the National Republican Party, also known as the Anti-Jacksonian Party, or simply Republicans. So Andrew Jackson,
not jaded at all.
The Democratic Party was built around Andrew Jackson, and John Quincy Adams effectively was the Republican anti-Jacksonian supporter or leader or whatever you want to call it at that point, heading into the 1828 election. So very fascinating how like it just switched just like that. Democratic Republicans had won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight elections since John Adams was the last. John Adams was the last Federalist drink that had won the presidency. And now we see the split in such a short time. No longer Democratic Republicans. Let's have a drink and farewell to peace and prosperity between those two parties.
Never wanted it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Now things get interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. You go from an election where a guy runs unopposed, and then you have 4 legitimate contenders in the next one. So it's no wonder it was split the way that it was when you've got people coming in with a silver tongue and people who just have a cult following and find themselves in the position, and then it's not even ultimately decided by the people. So at this point, it's interesting to see just how what we know today started taking form because of this election, because people's ideals were taken in so many different directions. How we understood the voting process itself just basically started crumbling away. So it's really unique to look at it now and just think how things would be today had they gone slightly different then.
Yep, for sure. Let's get Phil back in here and see how 1828 goes, because things get fucking crazy now. I am so pumped to be alive in 1828 to watch this shitstorm go down. Oh no! Damn it! It's all right. We all fuck up, except for me. I'm awesome.
The election of 1828. We put 2 big titans of American political history head to head. This would have been quite a time to be alive. John Quincy Adams, the reigning, defending president, going up against General Andrew Jackson. Now, this one would have been a no-brainer for me. It would have been, beyond a shadow of a doubt, my vote would have gone to John Quincy Adams, who was, like I said...
Oh, how we doing there? Sorry, I was stepping away from the computer for a second.
Being a Connecticut farmer, that would have...
Hey there, Alesto. How we been?
One of the first
God bless you.
He actually wanted to eliminate the slave trade, and that would have been huge for me. Big old contrast with General Jackson, okay? I totally would have understood if I had friends who were going to vote for Jackson. It's like, okay, he's got charisma. I get it. Whatever. I'm not voting for him. So it would have been John Quincy Adams, who also, a lot of people don't know, is another one of the undisputed heavyweights of presidential drinking. he inherited his father's more or less drinking gene, where John Adams, he could just drink all day as much as you could imagine.
Your wish is my
And
command
all
in
of
that
his
regard.
friends noticed that he was not.
I'm just finishing up some
inconvenienced
paperwork
by
and
it in
such
a
here
way.
at the
It didn't seem
mill, and
to
I was
warp
just
his
step
judgment.
away
He
for a
didn't
minute.
get hangovers. It was uncanny.
Thank you.
It was like,
God bless.
it just didn't do anything to him. And his son inherited that.
Yeah, we love
ability
you,
to the
Lesto.
point where he one time had blind. They didn't tell him what were the 11 Madeiras that were poured into
I might.
11
I don't know what I'm going
glasses,
to be doing a little
and
later.
he sipped each of them, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I believe he was able to positively identify 9 different Madeira wine brands based on taste alone. So he knew his stuff when it came to alcohol, but he was another guy that never seemed to be inconvenienced by it.
God
So
bless you, Lesto.
the Adams family,
Tell CTV I say
undisputed
yo.
heavyweights of presidential drinking. I would have been heavily disappointed by the election results, but I would have totally attended Jackson's inauguration party. This was also the first election where more people than ever were granted the franchise, which is why he was called the president of the people, if you will, which is kind of ironic by today's standards, but is what it is. And so, folks, we move onward and upward to the next election.
All right. So Phil touched on a couple things there. If you were paying attention to Tony's box, kids interrupted the show, so drink. Brendan's eyes were closed there for a second, kind of creeped me out. He's back now.
I'm lagging. I'm sorry. I'm taking over Phil.
It's all good. So yes, 2 titans and heavyweights, and Phil brought up one very, very important factor in this election. Prior to this election, there were, or was it this election or was it the 1832 election? But the amount of people that were allowed to vote has historically been low. Yes, this is the one. So now many more people are allowed to vote. Before, you had to be a white landowner male in order to cast your vote. Now the votes have been increased to I'm trying to find here where they exactly what the law was on voting, but yeah, this was going to be a big turnout in standards of that time. The most we had in any election up until then was like 300,000 people voting so far. So this dramatically changes the landscape of not only American politics at the time, but just the whole country in general, and how everything's going to run from here on out. I still can't find it. Where in the hell is it? Damn it. Fun part here also is John Calhoun, the vice president, is the Jacksonian party ticket. So he is currently John Quincy Adams, vice president, but he is running as vice president with Andrew Jackson. And John Quincy Adams, John Quincy has Richard Rush running for vice president. So you can see there's like a popularity rift within the tickets here now that we have split to Democrat and Republican. There's some infighting going on, which eventually I think is why this one went that way. As far as who would I have voted for, Nebraska and Iowa don't exist yet. I'm still, I guess, working docks. I'm probably a low-wage worker at that point, and living a rugged lifestyle. But being in like a New York shipping area, I probably would have like been that Andrew Jackson like war hero, rah, and wanting to I probably would have been more with the populist crowd and in the cult crowd, just to be honest, like not for any policy concerns or reason, just like back in that time, John Quincy Adams is the elite that get to do whatever the hell they want all the time, and I'm not against that, and I don't see how they're spreading the love to the little guy. So I probably would have been more for Jackson.
Yep, I kind of agree with all that. And unfortunately, this will be my last one. I got to bounce out, so I'll give mine quickly, and I will let you two have at it. But the way I look at this one, like with the split in the parties, it's really starting to take shape. In the previous election, I was kind of considering Andrew Jackson anyway. I didn't really like the idea of voting for John Quincy Adams anyway, so I think I probably would have been a little jaded on how that election itself turned out. So I probably would have been hardcore on the Andrew Jackson bandwagon this time around, just for the sake of how the last one went, how confusing it could have been to people who didn't even have a choice the election prior, because we just had one guy. Go to one guy to four guys to having it contested. Now you're starting to see the party affiliations take a new shape, and sides are being drawn and lines are being drawn. So I think I would have been hardcore Andrew Jackson for this one. So yeah, I don't see any other way around it, but I will let you guys have at it, and I will have to bid you adieu.
Good night, sir. Have
Night,
fun
sir.
with the children.
Indeed.
All right, Brendan, where would you land with this? This is an interesting one.
Man. All right. So even if I had fallen for JQA's fanciness and wonderfulness in the last election, right?
Right.
All the domestic stuff that he did, and then actually probably before I get to the domestic stuff that he did, the as soon as he put Clay in the position that he put him in, I'd be like, oh, this guy's corrupt.
Yeah.
He basically he won the election on a favor, basically.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be for that. So, but then you look at the policies that he instituted in the next 4 years, and he's a big government guy. He wanted a national university. He started doing canals like everywhere. He supported roads, supporting doing roads throughout the country or nation. And
dare I say he acted like a Federalist?
Oh, you son of a bitch.
So you're right. He was a big government guy.
Oh yeah, he was a huge government guy. So so in that with that respect, there's no way I would vote for him, even if I had the first time, because I was thinking back, like I'm a New England guy. I would almost have to vote for JQA, right? Like if I
right.
I'd almost have to. So even if I did get fooled the first time around, Andrew Jackson would be my guy this time, because I see what he did in the next 4 years, and wouldn't be a fan. So
yep,
I don't think it's too hard. I mean, once you have 4 years of someone doing signing bills and proposing legislation and that type of thing, which the executive is not really supposed to do, executive branch. But that being said, they did it. So
and that's exactly what happened. So the results of this election, with the collapse of the F Party, and 4 members of the Democratic Republican Party fighting against each other now and separating the two, or the main party. Let's see. So they did the contingent election. It was really weird putting in JQA in there. And then, like you said, the corrupt bargain is what it was dubbed as.
Yeah.
All of that led into that rematch in 1828 between these two, between Jackson and Adams. So what this did, this was one of the dirtiest and first dirty elections, with mudslinging on both parties, attacking personal qualities of other candidates, and talking mad shit. This was the first election that looked like a modern election, where they just started talking shit. And spreading rumors and telling some dirty, dark secrets. And this started getting pretty cutthroat. Was it Andrew Jackson's wife was technically still married?
Yep. And they were calling them adulterers. And and then she died shortly after he got elected, I think. And he attributed that to all the stresses of all the all the stuff that was said about him.
Yep. Typical Democrat blaming everybody else. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, but we should go over that. They're not a typical Democrat, right?
No, this is kind of backwards.
Like Democrat Republicans, really. I mean, it was just like they just. I don't.
The both parties are still trying to find themselves at this time. So
Yeah.
we'll call this Jacksonian democracy at this.
Yeah,
this
right.
time.
Yeah.
This is totally different than what everybody was looking at. So yeah. Anyway, so this was a crazy election, but it wasn't that close. Turnout. Now this is again, they expanded voter rights. So prior to this, only 3.4% of the American population was allowed to vote. And this got expanded to almost 10%. So 3 times more people are allowed to vote now, which is significant. Like now you're having the common man. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a massive change. So with the ongoing expansion of right to vote to most white men, the election marked a dramatic expansion of the electorate. Several states transitioned to a popular vote for president system, leaving only South Carolina and Delaware as the states in which legislature chose presidential electors. So, whether how we eventually get to that electoral college process is being shaken up at this time as well. So this election runs from October 31st all the way to December 2nd, so lasts over a month. Need 131 to win. Andrew Jackson, landslide victory, gets 178 of those 131. John Quincy gets 83, so that's a 55.5% of the popular vote versus 44%. Over 1 million people voted in this election. We're at, 1.13 or 1.14 million people roughly voted in this election. So yes, our candidate or our electoral pool has significantly grown. The only areas that Adams really won was kind of New England. Otherwise, nothing else. Jackson ran. He won most of New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia, which West Virginia wasn't actually part of it yet, and everything south. Anything that was on the eastern seaboard went from Maryland on up, went to Adams. So that's where higher population density was, but rural, smaller states from the ones I described on the western side and southern side went to Jackson. Quite a landslide. Big.
Yeah, killed it.
Let me see here. Now I got to try to run 2 separate screens. Oh, good God.
Well, I think that says something about society too. Like, right? I mean, if they saw the shadiness that happened and the Quincy Adams thing, right? I mean, that says something about at least people were a little more principled back then. They were like, well, I'm not going to vote for this jackass. He's corrupt.
If you call out corruption and the answer is I'm gonna call your wife an adulterer, I think the most common man would be like, hey, bro,
come on.
You wouldn't. Like the common man back in that day would not take down their local politicians for being having adulterer issues going on. Sure, they're going to know about it and they're going to get him out of office, but they're not going to shame him out of it. They have respect for a lot of people back then, and that's where you just started seeing the blatant disrespect at the highest office in the land. And I don't think the common man liked it.
Yeah. I mean, between that and the mudslinging and the corruption in the actual office, yeah, I think they were said enough is enough, right? I mean that's what it says to me, at least
what it looked like.
At least some of the people.
All right, let's see what Phil's got on our next section here as we move into our next election. Real quick, while we're going into that, I did I just listened to some things. I got a couple notes on the side, but John Quincy Adams, he dies a few years later. But his last words, which I thought was very interesting, he was kind of a stoic type person when it come to words, and but But his dying words were, excuse me, this is the last of Earth. I am content. So apparently he was good with it.
Yeah.
That was like, I hope I'm in that type of frame of mind when I am passing away to say something cool like that.
Yeah.
It won't happen. I'll be like, what fucking day is it?
Where's my bourbon?
Yeah. Grab me a Dalmore.
Yeah, get me a diaper and a scotch. Quick. That.
All right, here comes Phil. A diaper and scotch.
The election of 1832. This one, much as I'd hate to say, as much as it does actually pain me to say a little bit, no brainer. His last words when asked what his greatest accomplishments were, his children asked him, General Jackson, Mr. President, what was your greatest accomplishment? And he said, I killed the bank. And that is why he killed the bank, bitches. He killed the First National Bank. Sorry, that alone, bam, gets the check mark. Begrudgingly, I give my vote to Andrew Jackson. What else is there to say? Destroyed the bank. Come on now. You can shake your head. All you at home, you can shake your head all you want. But again, you gotta enjoy it when you can. Back to you, gentlemen.
That was a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be, but no, he is absolutely right. So the national bank that the Federalist Party wanted put into place, I think James Madison did it to eventually, like, that's we talked about that earlier, how we kind of helped just destroy their platform and gave them nothing to run on. Now there's nobody there that actually gives a shit. So Andrew Jackson says, yeah, I don't like this whole national bank thing, this federal banking thing.
I thought he didn't do that till his second term.
That's what we're getting into, and that's kind of what he ran on.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think his first term was pretty good. So again, I you can look at the 4 years previous, and then who's he running against? Henry Clay.
Yep, Henry Clay comes back.
People were sick of that corruption. They didn't want that guy.
Yep,
he's a dick. Although there was another 2 nominees.
There was John Floyd and William Wirt. So you had John Floyd was referred to as the Nullifier Party. I don't know anything about that, but I do remember hearing about the anti-Masonic Party. That was William Wirt, and the party he was running in on. Let me try to, since I don't have Tony to help me share some of this here, I'm gonna jump back and forth here real quick. Let me get Wikipedia pulled up so we can kind of read through all these goodies. Here we go. The election saw the first use of the presidential nominating conventions. Democrats, Republicans, anti-Masonic parties all use conventions to select their candidates. Jackson won renomination with no opposition, and the 1832 Democratic National Convention replaced John Calhoun with Martin Van Buren. The National Republican Convention nominated a ticket led by Clay, a Kentuckian who had served. We know about Clay at this point. And the anti-Masonic, one of the first major U.S. third parties, nominated former Attorney General William Wirt. Now, I don't know much about William Wirt. I like the name has come up in history before. I know I should know more about him, but I haven't had time to like dig into that because there's other things, the Whig Party. There's so much going on, and Andrew Jackson's just the focal point of the whole fucking thing.
Whig.
Yep. This is probably one of the most fascinating times in American politics and political history, but it's so focused around Andrew Jackson that it's like, and there's so much going on. Like, Andrew Jackson fucking like clubbed somebody. 2 people tried to kill him, I believe, and like one of them, like he like came up with a cane and just like kept beating the shit out of him even after they fucking restrained him. Like Andrew Jackson wasn't a guy to be fucked with. The one dude that tried to shoot him fired both barrels, and the gun misfired on both shots. And then afterwards, they went and looked and inspected the gun. There was nothing wrong with the gun. So like people were like, holy shit.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he was he was a war badass. And I mean, yeah, why would you, especially after the first time he whoops the snot out of someone that tries to kill him, like he'd do it again.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So I think this proves though that you can run multiple parties and still have a winner. Right? Like this argument that we can't have more than 2 parties, it's just absolutely insane and stupid. Like,
right.
I mean, look, we have the anti-Masonic, the nullifiers. You know, you can say it takes away from people that should or shouldn't be winning, but I don't know. I think this
look at this. It's 100,000 votes. Even if they all went to Clay, it still wouldn't have mattered.
Exactly. So I think this is kind of an example that, yeah, you can have more than one party running. It's not going to really more than 2 parties. Running. And it's really not going to be that big a deal. So, who would I go for? Definitely not Henry Clay. Just on principle alone, I'd actually be intrigued to vote for John Floyd if I thought Andrew Jackson did a really, really awful job on his first term. So, but I don't think Andrew Jackson really did, and plus he does want to kill the central bank. So I'd probably go with Jackson again.
Yeah, just with the central bank thing, with his popularity, of course, and then the corruption of Clay, I would want nothing to do with it. If something like really did trigger me, I may have gone towards William Wirt, and you know, the Masonics at the time were the elites. Again, this is like anti-elite type rhetoric and more for the common man. So I could see myself maybe going towards that party if that's actually what they stood for. That's to be researched a little bit more here.
Yeah.
Nullifier party, I don't assume they went on beyond this, so I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time talking about that. But
yeah.
Here's your 1832 presidential election results by state on display. So you get to see electoral vote and popular vote go through. A lot of blue on there for Jackson and Van Buren. Kind of a runaway with this election. 55% turnout, I believe is what it said. Wikipedia does give you some really cool like breakdowns of like state by state, county by county. They started doing this stuff around that time to where you can really see how things have changed over time. But 700,000 votes, 54%, and 219 electoral votes, and he only needed 145. So landslide victory there. Andrew Jackson wins your 1832 election. Couple of things. Jackson, faced heavy criticism for his actions in the bank war, but remained popular among the public. So with him closing the banks, okay, you got to have a plan. You get rid of centralized banking. You get rid of the federal banking system. Like you got to have some plans lined up in place to deal with some of the backlash that comes with it, and how does that breakup work, and how does the public go about banking after that. That's probably my biggest criticism of Andrew Jackson is this shit falls under the next president, because this is his second term.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to pick up these pieces and have a plan in place to move forward, because as we see, the country starts spiraling into an economic depression here shortly, partially due to this not having a plan to.
The question is, was the bank being harmful in what they were doing, and then is
possibly
the correction? The correction is just the free market actually coming back and doing what it's supposed to be doing. Like right now, if we stop printing money and stop dispersing it everywhere, is there going to be a correction? Yeah, of course there's going to be a correction.
Yep.
So yeah,
The day of reckoning, yes.
oh yeah, no matter what I mean, there's going to be one anyway. But I mean, if we cut out the Fed completely right now, is there going to be a correction? Oh yeah, there would be a
big.
Oh my God, it would be horrific. But yeah, you're right. I mean, but I don't think there's anything. I'm not sure there's anything that he could have done to plan it to. Maybe they could have planned it to make it hurt less. But there was gonna be a correction. There had to be a correction.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. 1836. Last election we're covering tonight, folks. Buckle in. Let's see what happens. Let's go to Mr. King of Extreme himself and see what Phil's got to say with his super long pauses here. 7 seconds may be too long. I don't know.
The election of 1836. We have got Martin Van Buren, or as they like to call him, Blue Whiskey Van, which is fascinating considering the fact that he almost never drank whiskey. He did have one decanter of whiskey by his bed when he occasionally needed some help getting to sleep. But usually it was Madeiras and ports and really expensive European products. So despite that, he still had the nickname Blue Whiskey Van. I don't know. And he was taking on the Whig Party. And like John Stewart's In America, the book, the Whigs, they will be missed. I don't know why I love that joke so much. So to me, out of this whole wild, wacky world of Whigs, I would take William Henry Harrison. He was a war veteran, a hero, well-known in the country, and he would go on to have one of the best presidential campaigns in the future, which is foreshadowing. So, folks, I am going to hand it back to the beautiful people at Dog and Chicken Studios to see how they would have taken this particular election.
All right. Appreciate it, Phil. So, Phil K.O.E. 2024. He's got to get his plug in there. Should have seen that coming eventually. Damn you, Phil.
You really should have, Chicken.
I gotta find my damn mouse. Like, I hope it didn't die. Like, I gotta change screens here.
Yeah. So in 1836, we had 5 candidates, which blows me away because 3 out of the 5 are the same party.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take over. Whenever you want.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm still trying to catch up and get screen set up.
Okay. Martin Van Buren, Democrat, New York. Running mate Richard M. Johnson. Oh, and look at this. So Hugh White, is with the W party.
White.
Will Wheaton.
Like the Will Wheaton was a Whig and he was white.
He's out of Tennessee. His running mate is John Tyler. But then you look down here at Mr. Mangum, independent out of North Carolina.
Is that Mangum or Magnum? Well, can we just call him Magnum?
I'll go with Magnum.
They should just misspell his name. He would have won.
But they both chose the same running mate. So
they both big John Tyler.
John Tyler was on the ticket twice, and then Francis Granger was also on the.
That wasn't uncommon, though.
Was it?
It wasn't uncommon back then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you would see that several times to where, especially with the Democratic Republican Party, you saw that a lot. But like again, this is a early age of Republican Democrat, and now you have Whigs drink. This is not a defined political atmosphere in this time. Like this is between Andrew Jackson and Civil War. This is chaos time in American politics, and to where you're starting to have not only the embargo issues, you're having issues with slavery, you're having issues with economic growth and lack of governance. You're having voting right expansion to where people are getting their voices heard. Like there's a lot of shit that happens in just a couple decades.
Yeah.
And
Look at how many parties just in the last 20 years that have just evolved. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Which was all for the good. The more voter expansion, the more voter rights, and the more evolution you get of all these parties, it's good. It works itself out in the end to more and more accepting outcomes. It takes a lot longer than it should, I'm sure, but yeah, damn it, like you got to start somewhere. So let's see. Where'd you leave off? You were talking. Oh, you were talking the five candidates.
Talking about the candidates. Yep. So I think I left off at William Henry Harrison.
So from Ohio, we had, like you said, Hugh L. Hoyt, Daniel Webster, and Huey P. Magnum. I'm calling him Magnum. I don't care. He deserves it.
He deserves it. Daniel Webster, I believe he one of the ones that was talking about secession. The Hartford Convention. I have to look.
Oh, was he involved in that? Which one? Daniel Webster?
Could be wrong. Yeah, Daniel Webster. Yep.
Daniel Webster, National Republican Party. He's a former F word. Son of a bitch. Let's see. Nullification crisis. He was. Let's see. Webster supported Jackson's defiant response to nullification crisis, but broke with the president due to disagreements over the bank.
Yeah, he was definitely a Federalist.
Yes. God damn it. Here we go again. Microphone's catching my cup. Oh. I'm really curious to see what happens here with some of these parties we don't hear about. So anti-Masonic party nomination. After negative views of Freemasonry among a large segment of the public began to wane in 1830s, the party has already begun to disintegrate. Some of its members began moving to the Whig Party, which had a broader issue base in anti-Mason. So again, this is a eventual evolution of parties. Nullifier Party had also begun to decline sharply since its previous election after becoming clear that the doctrine of nullification lacked sufficient support outside of the party's political base of South Carolina to make nullifiers more of a fringe party nationwide. So that's good. That's where they went. It's probably over for them at that point. All right. Who would we vote for in this one? So Martin Van Buren is really the successor of Jackson. Well, while William Henry Harrison, the Whig Party, was an American military officer, politician who served as the ninth president of the United States for 31 days in 1841, becoming the first president to die in office of the shortest serving U.S. president in history. Yeah, so spoiler alert, he wins, but
eventually
he gets to that point. So it's really, that's it. That's all they got to say about him, man. If that's your bio on Wikipedia for being president of the United States, it's not that glorious of a job.
Yeah. Well, he died in office, so he didn't get to finish.
Weak.
Ugh.
And that, if that's your pictures that you get,
yeah, some of these pictures are awful.
Like, all right, so all the shit I give people for taking selfies, give these guys some smartphones.
They need
Fuck
faces or something.
Okay. All right, let's get into the politics of it. So Democratic National Convention chose a ticket with Van Buren, which was the successor, like I said, to Andrew Jackson. And then the Whig Party chose recently emerged was primary, united opposition to Jackson. So now they're the new anti-Jacksonian party over the Republican Party at the time, hoping to compel a contingent election in the House of Representatives by denying the Democrats an electoral majority. The Whigs ran multiple candidates. Most northern state Whigs supported the ticket led by Senator William Harrison at Ohio. Southerners would go with Hugh Lawson White out of Tennessee, and then Webster and Magnum, Massachusetts, South Carolina. So this is where I kind of hinted at earlier in the show, to where they start noticing voter trends. And when you start having voter popularity, they go, oh, people vote for their Homer candidate. So like people in Massachusetts know Daniel Webster.
Yeah.
And then people in Tennessee know Hugh L. White. So they won't vote for Martin Van Buren. They'll vote for these guys. And then we'll take all these electoral votes away from the guy we don't want, and we'll spread them all out. So we saw that with the convention back the first time that Jackson won. And then they ended up giving it to John Quincy Adams. So that's what they were trying to redo. And this was futile, to say the least. It did not work.
Yeah. I this is a tough choice, right? So, okay. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm a New Hampshire guy. Daniel Webster, born in New Hampshire. He's out of Massachusetts. So, he's my guy. However, I voted for Andrew Jackson 2 times, and he did a great job. It looked like, for stuff that I agree with. So I think I would really lean towards voting for Van Buren. But I don't know if I found out what their party was doing, trying to suck all the votes away just so they had to, go to the House, to get the win. That's kind of slimy in my opinion. So then I would definitely probably vote for Van Buren. So I'm going to say I would go with Martin Van Buren for this go around.
Yeah, Jackson was super popular. I think I would have probably been in line with the Van Buren crowd. I would not have been at all aligned with third party in this one. And if I was,
it's hard to know where they stand because they're like 3 or 4 different parties in one. So who's who and what's what,
Yeah, they don't even know what they stand for at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then if I was around to see that first Jackson flop where Clay had tried to buy, so I'm gonna have that in the back of my mind. That was only a decade and a half ago. That was not many elections ago. I'd still have that in the back of my mind where I'd be like, no, these are the same fucking crooked assholes that stole it from Jackson the first time. I'm not supporting that group. Van Buren's Jackson's guy. I'm going to stick with Van Buren. This is it's kind of one of those tribal things that we all fall into, but it's if you're anti-corruption and want to fight that battle, cool. If you're pro-government, you're going to go with the other way. So, any final thoughts on this one? I think this is our last election for the night.
No, I think we covered it.
Hell yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Brendan Roy, yeah, it's been a fucking while, man. You've been out working in fucking middle of New York, and then you like think you need to take a fucking week of vacation so you don't join our live show, you prick. No.
It pains me to say no to people.
Yeah.
So I do love coming on the show, and you guys are the only ones that like to hear my opinions, whether you agree with them or not,
or tolerate them, or no.
So no, I do enjoy it. So yeah, it's man, I haven't taken a week of vacation in so long. It was so nice. So nice.
It is nice. It is nice. This is a little side note off of the politics and in the fun conversation piece of it. Like the one thing I'm gonna like praise COVID for. It taught me to appreciate my time off. It taught me to take my time off. Because you don't get those back. I worked for 15 plus years, never used all my vacation time, never once even came close to. I didn't even use half most of the time. And here I am, 17 years and have shit tons of vacation time. I never thought I would try to use it all. I earned it. One, I signed a contract for this job with that many days off, and I'm gonna fucking take them. Yep. Like that's the, like, as long as my job's getting done, who gives a shit? I'm taking my time off. That's what we agreed upon. I agreed upon the pay. I agreed upon the time off. And I think that's lost. And I'm not saying like there's not times where you have to say, well, I might not be able to take that week of vacation. I got a lot of work to do. Like there's a certain point that like there's a middle ground. I think I've met in my brain to where not only I'm like, I know my worth. And if I'm not performing, then I'll punish myself for not performing and not take that week off. But as long as I'm performing to the standard that is given to me, I'm taking my time off.
Well, yeah, and I think also comes I mean, there's loyalty and there, hard work and all that stuff. And as long as you're doing that, I mean, I feel like
the loyalty doesn't go both ways. People think it does. It does not.
It does not. No. And but I also think that what do you value in life?
Mm-hmm.
And more and more, not that I didn't before, but more and more, I'm always leaning towards family. I had someone actually tell me that I'm too much of a family man for him.
Fucking loser.
Looked at him and I just said, thank you. Like because I told him, he's like, oh, he told me, he said, I could keep you busy 7 days a week. And I said, I'm not interested. Yeah. Because I work really hard Monday through Friday, and that time is for my family. My off time. My boss is talking about bidding more jobs in New York. I told him I'm not interested. So
yeah.
If he wants to pay me an egregious amount of money, then I'll think about it. But other than that, I'm really not interested, because my value, what I am valuing is my time with my family.
Yeah, so, for sure.
That is the most important thing in the world to me. My mom, my kids, my wife, my brothers, my friends, that's all that matters to me. A job is just to make money.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, I can go make money somewhere else.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep. There's always something else.
I'll go mop floors. I don't care.
Yep. I can penny pinch and downsize. I can do anything I need to do, but yep.
Exactly. So I think it when I was younger, I was working 7 days a week, but I didn't have a family. I didn't have, although I wish I had spent more time with my brother and my father and my mom and, that type of thing. Especially my father, because I lost him a couple of years ago. So, because you'll never get that back. Once they're gone,
you don't realize until it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I really do. I express it to other people to, understand, make them understand that, it's nice to be good at work and hardworking and loyal. It really is.
But at the end of the day, it gets nowhere.
Yeah. So yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, it's just not the most important thing in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. More and more I hear that I think, anytime I get like pissed off at a relative that I'm like, God, I don't want to fucking talk to them today. I'm like, well, how many more times am I going to see them in person in life? Like, if I can count it on less than two hands, that like, well, I see them on average once or twice a year. Are they going to be alive in 5 years?
Yeah. And is that gripe with them?
Shit. I should probably answer the phone, or I should probably go visit.
Yeah.
Like when you put it into that perspective, and especially when you're like, oh shit, I only see them once every 2 years and they're at X amount of age and I don't think they're going to make it 5 more years. And you're like, fuck, I'm only going to see them one more time. I like, yeah, it changes your perspective a little bit. I mean, yeah. Don't tear up over it. Just get on the phone, give them a call, make their day. Like that's, it not only makes their day, it makes your day too. It makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, but no, it makes it a lot easier to have those conversations and then look at life a little bit differently. And yeah, then stay off of social media, because you'll see everybody being cunts and we had to have the C word dropped on this show eventually, but
it happened. Woo!
Yay! It only took an hour and 50 minutes. Wow, that's a new record.
Well, Phil wasn't here to grind your gears.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, where can everybody find you, Brendan?
Oh man, we are on all the podcatchers. Check us out. And if we're not on the one that you listen to, give me, send me an email, brendan@dadsww.com, and I'm gonna get us on there. And we have a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, we're all there. So come check us out and listen to a couple episodes, give us a like and a share. It would be awesome. Maybe a subscribe. And if you haven't already, you better like and subscribe to the Dog and Chicken Show. You better.
Damn right, you better.
That was
Son
my
of a
super
bitches. Are you following me back on Twitter?
I think so. I don't know. I'll have to look.
I don't fucking know. It was funny. Like I made a joke the other day because I got Michael Malice to roast me, and then I got Phil from the band All That Remains to like one of my tweets.
That dude.
And I was like, yeah, moving up in the world. And then I like scroll and I'm like, I only have 12 followers on Twitter.
Platforms that it's the hardest to get followers on there. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, especially for anybody with mindsets like us. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm okay. So with Dads Worldwide, I'm not political.
No.
I really try to I take a step
stay away from it. Yeah.
Because we're just, my co-host Jim is not political at all, even though he's getting more political because he's been fighting with the government for a little while.
Yeah, everybody gets there, folks.
Yeah, I know. When he says something, I'm like, I laugh. I'm like, I was like, yeah,
it's coming to the dark side. It's like me and Tony with conspiracies. All of a sudden, Tony started texting me conspiracy videos, and I'm like, I'm just letting it happen. I'm not talking. I'm just like, you're finding it all on your own now. I love it.
You don't have to say anything.
I'm like, I watched that video 7 years ago. Keep it going, Tony. Keep it going.
So with the Dads Worldwide moniker, I try to keep it light. I do have a political moniker on Twitter.
Just let him do it.
It's Your Politician Sucks.
Nice.
Come find me with an X. But I've actually got more followers on that than I do the Dads Worldwide, and I'm like,
you just go talk shit anonymously.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I have someone ask, I tell them who I am, but I mean, I just I did troll a Biden feed at one point, and I had people. I was arguing with people. I was asking, like, you really think this is going to be different? You're dreaming. So, yeah, that was fun. But no, so I try to keep politics away from Dads Worldwide. So even then, on Twitter, I don't know. I just find it to be a weird platform to.
It is
with people, unless you're fighting with them, honestly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, I don't know. It's.
Weird. I definitely do.
Yeah,
definitely.
Instagram. We have Instagram, and I know you're not a big fan of that, but we have.
I have one. I just never look at it.
Yeah, it's different, and
I don't even know how to fucking post a picture. Like I went to like post a fucking picture and it wants me to take one. I'm like, I already took one. I want to post what I took.
Yeah,
and
the platform's not fantastic, but but it does. I've been able to get a good community of dads and stuff like that.
That's good.
Here. So it's actually the most positive. I would say it's probably the most positive feedback that we get, and then it's the most positive people that I engage with. So
that's what I noticed about Instagram. People are nicer.
Oh yeah, totally. Yep. Yeah.
Very underrated platform. I try to get on there once in a while, but I'm just like, most pictures I have are like dirty memes and things that'll trigger people. And I'm like, these people are being so nice. I don't know if I want to poison the well.
That's what Twitter is for.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, folks, check out Dads Worldwide. Brendan Roy, thank you for jumping on. Got to have you back on more often. Now that you're back home, we'll get you into some of these live shows. We gotta roast Phil. Damn it, he's getting too powerful now that Biden's like pulling so much power away. Like, we gotta stop Phil. And like, it's like two immovable objects trying to pull apart. Like, you need some of us libertarian-esque type folks to like jump in the middle and make them all look stupid. That way, a rubber band will snap, and then
all afraid of the king of extreme,
and then they'll all look stupid.
Calling myself a Democrat or something.
Oh God, don't do that. Anyway, Jesus, don't do that. No. Oh, all right, folks. All that being said, we'll have Phil kill it with the outro. As always, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Check us out every other Thursday. We are live. Other Thursdays between that, we do these pre-records. If you want to hear us look into something interesting, sure. Shoot it to us. We're always open to new topics and new discussions. Otherwise, we're going to be doing these presidential things. We'll always cover on our live shows, current events and news and different things like that. But I think I got Phil and Tony talked into movie reviews. So I'd love to hear what movie you want all of us to watch. It's got to be a good one. I'm not going to make Phil watch a shitty movie. Phil doesn't have time for shitty movies. It's got to be a good movie. And then I really want to get some responses. So movie reviews. Also got them talked into murder mysteries, and not the normal murder mysteries. We want to do like some of our pre-recorded. We want to do like fucking crazy, unheard of murder mysteries. Like, holy shit, how the fuck does that happen? We already covered Dyatlov Pass and like that crazy weird phenomenon shit. No, I want to talk about how this crazy dude ends up killing 14 fucking people in one night. Nobody stops him, and he walks away with no scratch on him. How in the fuck? Like, why don't you people own guns? Anyway, yeah, for real. All right, let's switch over to Phil. As always, folks, I appreciate you. Love you. Let's have Phil take it away and round out the night for us. I'm sure there's a long delay on this one, as there is with the others. We shall see. I'm waiting for the, all that being said.
Dog, chicken, everybody, thank you. And as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us for this very special dog and chicken show going into the history of presidential elections in the United States. I am your king of extreme, Phil K.O.E., the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes the other podcast cower, the Lord of the Scottish Highlands, the Prince and Potentate of the political parlance, and I hope to see every last one of you back here at the Dog and Chicken Show, happy, healthy, much the wiser. Folks, raise a glass to yourselves. I am your king of extreme, Phil K.O.E. You can find me at K.O.E Nation on YouTube and Twitch. Also, be sure to find Chicken at Big Buckin' Empire on YouTube and Facebook, and be sure to find Tony G at Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Thank every last one of you. God bless you, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
All right. Thanks, Phil. Good night, folks. We'll see y'all next week.
And see if it just smooths itself out. Tell you what I'll do. If I ever get back, I promise to refabricate you raging rivers of gold. That's what the brochure advertised. And now we're lost. We gotta take it down. Let you down slow. It's hard to survive.
Folks, yes, that was we'll hit pause on that. That was an amazing time, folks. I had a really, really good time. Now, folks, we are at that point of the evening where in reality, in live, I'm going to tell you all that being said. Thank you for joining me for this edition of 1788 to 1836 for the elections of the presidency of the United States. Don't you think that we're done yet? We're just getting into the good stuff, folks. So, folks, be sure to like, share, subscribe right here at K.O.E Nation on YouTube. Be sure to follow me on Spotify. It has been a beautiful time with all of you beautiful people. I am going to be turning in here shortly. I am glad that I got to spend this amazing time with all of you amazing people. I also got to finish up some work that I've been trying to get done. So, folks, thank you for being here. God bless every last one of you. Raise a glass to yourselves of whatever you might be drinking. This evening, I was drinking Old Forester 1910. One dram a night's good enough. But folks, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. This is my toast to you. God bless all of you beautiful people, and I'll catch you on the flip side.